let's get this thing rolling. Why don't we, we'll just hit it. We'll just get it going. Let's just get it going. No time to waste. No time to waste. I appreciate you once again taking the time out of your day. Welcome back to an evening edition of the Blunt Politics Podcast. I'm Boston Brian, and that was my AM edition radio kind of voice. I'm trying. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What's up, chat? What's happening, peeps? What's going on? What's up, Jim? What's up, Dane? What's up, Roxanne? What's up, Jonathan? What's happening, brother? Albert, what's going on? Roxanne, DPD. Good to see you. What's up, 9 Inch Nails? Tina, how are you? Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. Welcome back to the show. Welcome in, one and all. Welcome in, one and all. Lots to discuss tonight. We're gonna be we're gonna be looking at the strange relationship between Natalie Harp and Donald Trump. So strange, in fact, that her brother was willing to get on with CNN and talk about how strange it was, but also gives a little insight into their upbringing and some of the things that, her mom or their mom was teaching them, and how it kind of, it led to directly her being side by side by Donald Trump in this. We got a few other things. There's a Mediaite article I want to look at where apparently she jumped in the trunk of one of the Secret Service vehicles because she was mad that all of the Trump administration, or the people in the Trump administration, said there was no more room for her. So she was like, you know what? Stick me with the dogs in the back. I'll hop in there. So there's a lot to get to. We have an iHip with an iHip video with Jen and Pumps. They're talking about Natalie Harp as well. We also have a video from the Dangerous Ones, and they're going over. I think they have a kind of a viral video that was going around about Natalie Harp and her relationship with Donald Trump. So I want to see if we can take a look at that and see what commentary they have to add. But yeah, welcome back to everybody. Thank you. Hit that like button on the way in. We're trying to make it to 25,000 subscribers before midterm elections. But, it's only with your help and generosity that we're going to be able to do that. What else are we going to be talking about tonight? We have, again, the aimless, wandering, mindless, senile Donald Trump wandering outside of the White House. We'll wait on that one. I just have to call out a couple minutes of that just absolute nonsense from a guy that considers himself a builder, like absolutely knows nothing about building, knows nothing about construction. We have Greg Kelly from this morning that we didn't get to, where he's trying to defend, he's doing his best to defend Natalie Harp as well. So we're going to hop on Natalie Harp, not in the way that Donald Trump wants to hop on Natalie Harp, but we are going to try to see what's going on with that strange, awkward, weird relationship where she's kind of like, I don't know, she's kind of like the pretty Laura Loomer. She's now taken over those services, if you know what I mean, on Air Force One. And then we got a couple updates from Iran. Iran apparently is planning, or at least putting out, leaking reports that they're planning a massive escalation. We've seen a lot of strikes from the Houthis and allegedly from the Iranian side that isn't being kind of retaliated, like tit for tat wise, like the United States was doing. So I think the Iranians are feeling a little bit emboldened. Not only that, but they feel like they have Donald Trump on the back foot with midterm elections, with the the stockpile issues that we've been seeing and stuff like that. So we'll take a look. I think that's in Preston Stewart video, as well as Combat Veteran News is taking a look at the same thing about the Iran news coming out that they might be planning a massive attack. And then finally, we have a little bit of news about how Russia's war is failing, and their officials are becoming more and more able, or willing, I should say, to put that out there either on social media or in interviews or in different accounts. So more of them talking about how badly the economy is doing, how ineffective, even as they, you either capture territories or lose territories in some of the places or some of the positions on the front. Like, a lot of the officials are recognizing that the cost, the toll that they're taking is not worth the results that they're seeing. So we'll take a look at that later on in the show. But what do you say we bring in the chat? Say hi to you guys. You guys deserve the screen time, making this show possible with all your generous donations and helping this show continue to grow. Multitude of ways you can do that. Venmo up here in the corner takes you right to the Venmo. $1 or $2 sent into this channel because we don't run ads. We don't have any financial backers, any corporate sponsors. We don't hide anything behind a paywall. We don't charge for the Substack. We try to do things the right way over here. So hopefully never, ever have to talk to, an ad revenue dude or anything like that, because you guys will continue to support this venture. We'll continue to support this channel and the community that we've built here. And obviously the change we want to see as far as politically here in the United States, and obviously, abroad as well. So what's going on, Carol? What's happening, everybody? Appreciate you guys. What's going on, Tina? Tiff, again, thank you so much for being here, as well as the rest of the mod crew that we have. Salute. W's in the chat to the mods. Much appreciated. What's going on, Gamer? How are you guys? Jupiter Judy, appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like button. I know you wouldn't forget anyway, but just trying to remind you. All right, let's dive into a little bit of the nonsense, a little bit of the craziness as we do here on this late Wednesday night. Everybody crack an adult beverage, smoke them if you got them. You know what I'm saying? So we're just going to try to take the laid back approach, go through some of the ridiculousness news from today, a little bit of Donald Trump making an ass out of himself once again. I think we'll start there. There's a couple of clips from earlier today where Donald Trump apparently met with a gang of crooks inside of the White House who have no problem standing next to or doing business with a fascist in order to enrich themselves. And obviously, as everybody else does, as many people do when they're, meeting with Donald Trump, apparently they were made to wait. Apparently they sat there like absolute chuckle fucks for about a half hour waiting for Donald Trump to arrive. I think this was when Donald Trump was outside giving the tour of the helipad, which is just as bizarre and ridiculous as it sounds. The president of the United States, distracted from the wars, distracted from the economic devastation he's caused in this country, just to give a tour of the fucking helipad that he spent who knows how many millions of dollars redoing, when apparently, and for at least my entire lifetime, I've seen helicopters land at the White House just fucking fine. Just fine. I've seen president after president to give an interview after interview in front of the the helicopters that were just behind them at the White House. Then they go and they hop in and they take off, and then they come back and they land and they give an interview, and that's happened my entire life. I feel like, you know what I mean? I don't think there was an issue with helicopters landing at the White House, but apparently there was. But this is earlier today. He was meeting with some crooked and corrupt businessmen, I have no doubt. But there was another moment in this I wanted to take a look at. And this fucking website sucks. It really does. Why it has to reset every time, for fuck's sake, when you go back to it. Let me go, yeah. And this is let me go back to where the idiots are standing around, because that's how I know I'm at the right spot. But clearly you can see a lot of moronic, here we go. Hear them. They're all standing around here. And then there's a couple clips. Which one did I want to look at? Oh, this is, nope, not that one. That's just a flub up. That's typical for him. There was Trump's face. This is where he's falling asleep, standing up, basically, right? This is where he's fighting to keep his eyes open when somebody else is talking. He's in the background on the left.
Is consonant with our belief that the most important priority is for Congress to send.
This is why they don't typically have him standing up now. Like, they love to see him seated at his chair at the Oval Office. Here's another one where you can see Aaron Rupert Trump doing his damnedest to find a way to stay to sleep while standing up. I mean, again, it just gets more and more ridiculous by the day, and that continues later on in the show when I show you the guy wandering aimlessly outside of the White House talking about stone and granite and hammers, and it's insane. It really is insane. But here's another moment where he's struggling to keep his eyes open as he's standing up.
Tokenization will open up markets that have long been out of reach, including private companies. Today, too much economic value is being created before.
And again, every day he looks more and more disheveled, cares less and less about that hair, apparently, or there's just not much that the fucking stylist can do anymore with what they're working with. But let me see here. There was one where he talks about, I know that's the one where he talks about the crypto and the Bitcoin. And he says, that they do have plans to accumulate a ton of those. Oh, this is one where he lies about the strait being open. Again, let me see this one real quick.
President, I want to ask you about Canada, but first, the Treasury Secretary says that we could see the most impactful sanctions on Iran this week. When will they come, and what else could be sanctioned on Iran?
Well, we have things that we could sanction. We have very draconian sanctions, and we'll see what happens. Right now, the strait is open.
No, it's not.
A lot of boats are coming through.
No, they're not.
People aren't reporting that, and that
because it's not happening. It's not happening. Are boats making it through? Yes. Are a lot of boats making it through? No. Is it anywhere near the amount of boats that were getting through before this guy started this incredibly expensive, destabilizing, destructive war? No. So all lies on all counts. On all counts.
May slow down a little bit at some point, but right now.
Slowed down, you mean stopped to a large extent? For a large period of time, and now we've had to sneak some boats through in the fucking dead of night, as Donald Trump loves to, brag about the control that he has and the power projection of the United States as we're sleeking around in the middle of the night trying to get a single ship out of there. It is crazy. It's absolute insanity.
Now, a lot of boats are coming through.
No, they're not.
The naval blockade has been extremely effective.
Clearly not effective enough to get us out of this war, right? Not effective enough to bring Iran to its knees and bring them begging, with the white flag, waving the white flag to the negotiating table. It just hasn't. I mean, there's just no other way to look at it, right? As much respect as you can put on the United States Navy's capabilities and the United States military's capabilities, it just hasn't. Whatever has been put into play as far as plans, whatever planning went into this, right? And then secondary plans, and then third, and then fourth, and then fifth string plans that had to be pulled out, obviously, clearly didn't get the job done. It's just not happening. They're still asking for the same things. They're still controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And again, to a certain extent, their control, Iran, absolutely, their control over the Strait of Hormuz has kind of weakened, has lessened. But that still doesn't mean that they're not able to take out ships. That doesn't mean that these ships, insurance companies, and the captains on them don't have to be wary about sending their vessels through and whether or not Iran is going to send a drone or a missile their way, or they're going to sail headfirst into a fucking mine that they laid just to kind of get back at the United States. So it still is not going to put us back to the position we were in before the war started, which again, we were supposed to see added benefit. We were supposed to be in the position before the war plus some. You know what I mean? We don't just start a war and then come up with ways to try to get us back to where we were the day the war started. Like, that seems pretty fucking wasteful to me. That just seems absolutely asinine, to waste lives, right? To destroy infrastructure, to spend fucking, who knows, probably trillions of dollars when all is said and done. All for what? To get us back to the point the day of when we started the war? No, that's just ridiculous. Clearly, you want to see some added benefit, right? Either you take out a regime, you take out some threat, you eliminate a threat, something. You have to see some sort of benefit from that, both either politically, militarily, and just we've seen absolutely nothing. They continue to try to take praise for the attempts they have of getting us back to square one. And it's crazy. So there was that one. I think, well, like I said, we'll just fly through a couple of these. Oh, here's the one that I wanted to take a look at, where he's again talking about and praising his relationship with Kim Jong-un. Again, just fulfilling his destiny of being side by side or bent over, kneeling in front of Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin while their pants are down. So he continues to fetishize about that whole dream that he has, and continues to put up Kim Jong-un and, Viktor Orban and the rest of these, madmen that he loves to praise up on a pedestal, meanwhile throwing our own allies, the United States, as allies, and people that he's got a problem with because they won't, jump into this, again, ridiculously expensive and insane war that Donald Trump started, even though Donald Trump continues to reiterate that the United States doesn't want or need anybody else's help. That's why. That's the whole reason why. But here he is again praising, North Korea dictator Kim Jong-un and his relationship with him.
For everybody, yeah.
Mr. President, earlier today you said North Korea has something like 57 nuclear weapons. They've been expanding their nuclear program. Is your goal in trying to re-engage with Chairman Kim still denuclearization? And what makes you think you could be successful now when you weren't?
Well, I don't want to talk about that, but I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un. As you know, you've seen. He didn't like Biden. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like anybody, but he likes me, and
he likes you so much he continues to send his own men and equipment to Russia so that they can kill the allies of the United States, kill the allies of the country that you're presiding. That's how much he respects you. That's how much you get along with this guy. That's how much you're, again, utilizing your friendship with this dictator to get, some of the, either threat out of the way or get some benefit to the United States. No. He's just going to sit there and talk about how great he is. He's such a great guy. We write letters back and forth. Oh, you should see the love letters that he writes us. It's a good thing that I'm in love with this fucking genocidal madman. It's a good thing. You should be happy about that.
Got along with him very good. We had great meetings. We speak. And I think our nation, and I think other nations, frankly, whether it's Japan or South Korea, they're a lot safer if I'm president than if somebody else is president. Now, I didn't like the fact that we're doing these massive military exercises really against North Korea. It was,
yes, an enemy who continues to threaten us on a daily basis, right? He continues to threaten us with their nuclear missiles, with their nuclear stockpile. continues to threaten South Korea, continues to, according to them, their entire stated goal is to eliminate the United States and the greater Western powers, right? So, I mean, what makes them a threat? Why should we not consider them a threat? But why would you be pissed off or not happy with the fact that the United States, again, is out there for a reason doing these things? To let Kim Jong-un know that we are still in that area, to let them know that, yes, we still have cooperation. We are still, this close with the South Korean military. If you decide to do anything, we're going to enact this. This is what you're facing. This is what you can expect if you decide to, again, launch a missile, if you begin to, attack South Korea, whatever it is. Like, that's the whole point. You show them that, yes, we're still here. You can't just do this and expect to not have, retaliation and not face some consequences if you continue to threaten this place, that place, or that country. But that's the whole point, is to continue to show these bad actors, continue to show these bad players around the world that NATO is still a united and strong force, that we still have, strong partnerships with these countries, that we have, defense treaties with, trade agreements with, that we've been longtime allies with. And that's just the opposite of what Donald Trump's doing. He's continuing to ruin, step on, literally slit the throats of all of our fucking relationships around the planet, around the world, with the allies that we've had for years and years and years, generation after generation. And now this guy's continuing to throw a wrench in the gears. Now with South Korea basically saying, we don't want to send enough, or any. He just found it to be too late to cancel the United States' involvement, the participation in the exercise. So he just severely and drastically limited the involvement and participation of the United States, thus sending the opposite signal to Kim Jong-un that we intended to send with these military exercises, which is there's a little fucking tension between us and South Korea. Now may be the moment, if you're looking to exploit some tension between the United States and South Korea, now may be your time, especially when the United States is all wrapped up in a war in the Middle East, especially when they have limitations as far as their missile interceptors, all right, as far as their ATACMs and their long-range missiles. Like, maybe now would be the time to kick things off. Maybe now would be the time to hit the go button. So that's the opposite message that we want to be sending people like Kim Jong-un, people like Vladimir Putin, people like Xi Jinping all over this planet. But that's the message that Trump continues to send these people on a daily basis.
Exercise against North Korea. When I'm friendly with him, I don't see anything happening for certainly 2.5 years. It's not going to happen with me. But
this is just absolutely, he's quite literally basing his presidency off of the personal communications and personal phone calls that he has with these people. It has nothing to do with, the military reinforcements they send our enemies, or the missiles that they inevitably send Russia. So Russia uses them to kill Ukrainians, again, allies of the country Donald Trump is presiding over right now. Like, he just doesn't quite grasp that, and he continues to base everything he says off of the conversations and the phone calls. So that's why Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and Kim Jong-un know how to get one over on Trump. All you have to do is butter him up. Call him a good businessman. Say he's great at this. Say he's been the best president. Buy him a gift. Send him a gold fucking covered horse or whatever the fuck. And then next thing you know, he's on the hook. You got him hook, line, and sinker. And then it doesn't matter what you do in the background. You could be, helping Iran target U.S. bases. You could be helping Iran target U.S. service members or planes or drones that directly led to the deaths of U.S. service members in the war with Iran in the Middle East, right? Or you could be shipping 50,000 or so troops to Russia so that Russia could send them into Ukraine to help kill Ukrainian military servicemen and women, or Ukrainian citizens, Ukrainian civilians. Like, isn't that bad? Isn't that something that you'd want to speak up about if you were the president of the United States? Maybe put some pressure on this dickhead. Maybe put some pressure on this guy you continue to give flowers to, come out and praise your relationship with. You see the discrepancy there? It's not like what you hear on the phone. It's not how nice he is when you guys meet in person, right? That's the whole facade that these dignitaries, like these dictators and these fascists that stay or remain in power for all these years, or their families remain in power, like, it's taught down, it's passed down from generation to generation, or it's learned from the people that are gain power and are able to keep it for so long, how to do it and how to keep that. Right. You just continue to go out there and lie and lie and lie to the people. and hope that they don't notice. And when they do notice, bring up an even bigger lie. So it's just, I don't know. It's amazing to me that they've also been taught how to deal with the United States over these years, right? Deal with the president of the United States and, put a smile on if you need to. If you need to act pissed, act pissed. But basically go there and schmooze and butter them up. Say that you're not involved in election interference. Say that you're not involved in killing people all around the world with your secret force that you send around for people that speak out against Russia or, used to be ex-KGB, but, defected somehow. Like, lie about all those things. But Donald Trump is the greatest example of what people like Vladimir Putin, the KGB, the Kremlin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, Viktor Orban, the list continues as far as people around the world that know how to manipulate assholes, morons, and dickheads just like Donald Trump, right? That's all they got to do. That's all they got to do is just play the part while they meet or while they're on the phone or in communications and behind the scenes. You don't have to fucking, don't worry about a thing because, Donald Trump's not going to put any pressure whatsoever on you. You're not going to have to change any of your policies. He's going to continue to call you a friend. He's going to continue to degrade the relationships with his own allies in order to stay close to you, the autocrat, the dictator, the genocidal madman, as opposed to the allies of the United States. But there was a couple other things here that he said. There was another one, if I'm not mistaken, that people are hopping on because he basically says, yeah, this is it right here. This is basically, we'll end on this one because, this is another key audio clip that we should be using going into midterms, much like, I don't give a shit what the economic pressures that the American people are facing right now. And there's a couple other ones that we got to throw in there. I should probably get drops of all the times he said he basically just doesn't care about the people in the United States. He's going to do anything that he wants. But this is another one where he's basically saying he wishes that the numbers were bad, which they are. So I don't know why he's wishing. He should just look at the real numbers and he'd be fucking apparently very, very happy. But he said in here that he wishes the numbers in the United States were bad because that would have an interest on, an effect on interest rates going down. So this is always what you want to hear from the president of the United States is the fact that he wants to see bad numbers in hopes that the country does bad. So that somehow that will lower interest rates for him and his, billionaire pedophile buddies that he has. But listen to this. This is real quick, only about 11 seconds.
Pretty simple to me, but it's a killer. I almost like to hear bad numbers. I'm saying, I hope we have bad numbers today. Interest rates, it doesn't.
Perfect. We'll use that sound bite as much as possible, please. Democrats, I hope you take a note. Make that a sound bite, turn that into a commercial, turn that into a fucking, a banner that's getting flown behind one of those planes down to Miami. That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic because, Donald Trump saying that he doesn't care about the people that he's presiding over shouldn't reflect well on the Republicans during midterm elections as they continue to support everything that the guy does. Let's see here. Was there anything else? When our country's strong, interest rates should go down. So no, he just continues to talk about interest rates as that's concerned. All right. What do you say we hop on Natalie Harp? And hey, get your mind out of the gutter. That's not what I was saying. That was not what I was saying. Donald Trump wishes he could or does or may or might Air Force One. Not sure. Maybe in the catering truck. We don't know. Cameras weren't there. We'll have to hear from the catering company how it smelt afterwards. Probably not good. But this is Greg Kelly doing his best Natalie Harp protection as Newsmax and Fox News and OAN and RSBN have jumped right on this like Natalie Harp defense train as soon as John Ossoff brought her up in one of his recent speeches. It was, okay, it's a fucking 7-alarm blaze here. We gotta calling all cars, everybody in. We got to do everything we can to defend Donald Trump's girlfriend. I'm not sure. Donald Trump's side piece. Donald Trump's sexual assistant. Donald Trump's cup checker. I'm not sure. Donald Trump's ass wiper. There's a lot of names that she goes by. But this is Greg Kelly. And this is what stirred this up really is, the video that we played on the podcast the other day of them in 2024, Donald Trump and Natalie Harp concocting their little True Social post and her sitting about as close as possible to Donald Trump because nobody else could, stand the smell. She somehow just blocked out the ability to smell. That's how she gets so close to this guy. But that was 2024. And it's like, the little glimpse into the inner workings that we saw really kind of like raised some red flags for me. I know a lot of people have been speculating and talking about Natalie Harp and her position and kind of her role role and what she does for a while now. But it just really that video from behind the scenes kind of was like, I don't know what's going on here. And then you see, stuff like this. This is from Mediaite. Natalie Harp reportedly jumped into an SUV trunk to follow Donald Trump after a screaming match. So then it's like, what's going on here, right? We got like a stalker session going on. And her brother kind of says the same thing. I think he calls it like an unhealthy obsession she has with Donald Trump. But I mean, this is, I guess, what you do when you're locked up in a cult. Like, this is the tunnel vision that you get, where you don't see how ridiculous you look. You don't see like the lengths that you're willing to stoop to. Like wiping Donald Trump's ass and changing his diapers. Like, you're willing to do that for proximity of power. Like, no, come on. Like, there's lines in the sand for everything. Well, should be lines in the sand for everything and everyone, but apparently not for Natalie Harp. And there's a couple paragraphs. We don't have to jump into this, I don't think, right now. We can go into that video from Greg Kelly, but it says, President Donald Trump's aide, Natalie Harp, once jumped into the trunk of an SUV after a quote-unquote screaming match with staffers who told her there was no room for her in the motorcade. So she threw a fucking temper tantrum because apparently the staffer said, no, you're going to have to travel either in another vehicle or with a different motorcade. And she threw such a tantrum that she wasn't going to be, beside her diaper daddy's side for, I don't know, who knows how long, maybe an hour, 2 hours, depending on where they were going, that she literally jumped, and this is from the reports that we're looking at, jumped into the trunk of one of the SUVs with probably the canines where they've been fucking drooling and pissing and fucking shedding and, and everything else in the background. But she's okay with that. She's seen a lot worse, right? Like, she's gone into a hazmat suit before, into a bathroom with Donald Trump, and had to figure out if he had shit stains on his underwear or not, figured out if he had to change his drawers in the middle of the day. So she's been through it, okay? She's earned her fucking Purple Heart as far as that's concerned with Donald Trump. But, she's seen worse than that. But it says, CNN's Kristen Holmes and Adam Cancrin, if I've got that right, Cancrin, reported Tuesday on Harp's position in Trump's inner circle as an executive assistant, including the previous unreported incident from October 2023. Trump was preparing to leave Trump Tower for a New York City courthouse when aides allegedly informed Harp that there was no seat available for her. Harp insisted Trump had personally asked her to come along, prompting a screaming match in the lobby, two sources told her, and then ultimately she apparently decided to jump into the trunk, jump into the way back in that motorcade, so that she couldn't, that she was never far enough away. So she was never far away from Donald Trump's side there. But this is Greg Kelly after John Ossoff had invoked her name as far as, Natalie Harp. This is Greg Kelly. And this is the longest segment I've seen Newsmax post of his in I don't know how long. Like, typically there's about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, if that, from Greg Kelly. Because they really don't give a shit about him or promote him in any way, shape, or form, even though he's supposed to be like the face of Newsmax. But they hide him pretty well as far as the website is concerned. But here he is with an almost 7-minute clip. Well, we'll give it to him. An almost 6-minute and 30-second clip defending Natalie Harp here. So let's see what he's got to say, see what we can call out. And then after this, we got her brother on with CNN. Which we don't have to go through too much, but he does say basically it's an unhealthy obsession and give some insight into the way that they were brought up as far as her mother's teachings and kind of, what she believed and had the kids believe and stuff like that. And then we have Jen and Pumps from the I've Had It podcast. They get into a little bit of their opinion on what's going on between Trump and Natalie Harp. And then we have in the Dangerous Ones. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Dangerous Ones. Let me throw that on real quick in case you're not familiar with them. Oh, let me do that. So the name of this one is, come on, what's the name of the video? Is it not going to show up? Here it is. Oh, Trump's Natalie Harp problem just got much bigger. So I think they're taking a look at some viral videos going around of Natalie Harp, and I thought their commentary might be funny to take a look at. So we'll take a look at that just after Greg Kelly makes a fool of himself simping for Natalie Harp. Now, Greg, she's not going to marry you. She's just not. She's way too infatuated with Donald Trump to ever marry Greg Kelly. So stop taking your shot. I know this is essentially Greg Kelly shooting his shot with Natalie Harp to try to defend her, but what a cuck he is.
Natalie Harp, in my book, is a very, very special person.
Special, very special.
First,
you got to be special if you're going to be in a room with Donald Trump or sit that close to Donald Trump with a fucking rump full of shit.
Noticed her. Let's see. I guess it was at the Republican National Committee. Now, she works for President Trump. close aide. You know, you need somebody.
Someone would say too close. Melania, maybe one of those people that would say ultimately very too close, much too close as an aide.
Who's there for you at all times.
All
And
times. Like, we're talking all times. Like, whether your underwear's like whether you've soiled yourself or not, we're talking all times. Natalie Harp is right there with a big bag full of human adult diapers that she's ready to slap on Donald Trump anytime he, shits himself in front of everybody.
Natalie Harp, I've seen her.
What's up, gang? What's happening? Welcome to the program. Welcome to the show. Sorry to anybody. What's up, CSL? Sorry, I didn't see you guys come in. I should have warned you. I should have warned you. We're taking a little deep dive here into the relationship between Trump and Natalie Harp. The recent reporting of, Harp's desperation to stay within proximity of Donald Trump got to such an extent that she's willing to jump into the trunk of, the trunks of vehicles. So, when the staff says that there's not enough room. So I figured it's worth taking a closer look after we saw the insight into the way that they concoct their Truth Social post and come up with their propaganda. This is just Greg Kelly's attempt to try to defend Natalie Harp. So my apologies that you came in with that visual going on. That's my bad. That's my bad. I'll take one for the team on that one. That's -1 star. -1 star for Brian. Okay. But make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Like I said, we're just calling out Greg Kelly, the world's dumbest man here, as he tries to simp and cuck about as much as he possibly can for Natalie Harp here. Let's go.
Do a fantastic job. So professional, so thorough.
It is thorough. You have to be thorough. Again, when you're wiping the ass of an elderly president, you really do have to be thorough, because that fucking smell lingers, ladies and gentlemen. It will linger. I know sometimes they like to keep the media at bay. When he's kind of waddling around. We'll see a couple of clips of that today when he's, waddling his demented ass around the White House lawn, talking about fucking helipads that he has no clue about. Like, you gotta be careful, because you never know who's downwind. So you do have to be thorough. I'll give Greg Kelly that. She does have to be thorough. If she has to use a whole pack of baby wipes, then so be it. I think they can afford that over there with the, $2, $3, $4 billion they've been able to pocket through crypto and other means in his second term. So we're all set on the baby wipes. That may be what's in that red bag. See this red bag? I think that's a bag full of just baby wipes. That's all that is baby wipes and a gas mask. So for when they have to do the deed.
Really where some folks first noticed her. Take a look at this. The RNC.
Most folks first noticed her at the feet of Donald Trump, right? Literally, most people's first impression they get of Natalie Harp is when she's getting off the floor in front of Donald Trump, or either behind Donald Trump. That's where she's most comfortable, is either on the floor behind or in front of Donald Trump. So that's the first type of, hey, how you doing, meeting session that most people got from Natalie Harp, they say.
2020. She's a bone cancer survivor. Take a look.
About 5 years ago, I was the victim of a notoriously deadly...
And apparently this is where, like, the unhealthy obsession begins, apparently, where she allegedly was, helped out by some of the experimental drugs that one of the laws that Donald Trump signed kind of put into play. So she, like, directly credits Donald Trump for, like, quite literally saving her life with his own hands. Like, that's what it sounds like. Like, even so much where I think the brother references it on CNN, like, he didn't fucking actually heal her, right? He didn't spend his own money at her hospital to come in and, like, buy her doctors to give her the best equipment and, the best drugs they could possibly, like, let's back it down here with Donald Trump saved her life. You know what I mean? So, but I think that's ultimately where at least her origins or oranges, if you're Donald Trump, of this story began. Of her unhealthy obsession. And this is the story that she's telling here in 2020. But, she's praising Donald Trump as one of the best leaders ever. Like, what else happened in 2020? Is there anything else? I don't know what I forget what month the GOP convention was in. I don't think it says it on the screen anywhere. But what do you guys remember anything happened in 2020 under poor leadership? Just curious. Throw it in the chat if you remember something that we went through that started 2020-ish.
Claire, I survived, but only to be diagnosed with a rare and terminal bone cancer. They didn't give me the right to try experimental treatments, Mr. President. You did. And without you, I'd have died waiting for them to be approved. You see, Mr. President, you've done so much more than your promises made and promises kept. For numbers, only tell part of the story.
They do. And the final numbers we're talking about as we see 2020 on the screen would be over 1 million Americans that ultimately died because of the mishandling of COVID that happened under the Trump administration. But again, all the power to her. Good on her for surviving the cancer that she had. I'm glad she was able to get her access to the medicine that ultimately went on to help her recover from her ailment, recover from the cancer. But again, that has nothing to do with the way in which she's kind of attached at the hip with the fascists, and she has this unhealthy relationship with a much older man that clearly likes much younger women. So when we see these much younger women, like really, like, I don't know, showing like signs of affection, let's just call it what it is, when she's leaving like little love notes around the White House telling Trump that, she means more, he means more than anything in the world to her. Like, that's awkward, strange, weird behavior, let's just say. So again, it's a lot of this cult like wrapped up in like this Stepford wife type of fucking suit just to get around and be close to proximity of power with Donald Trump that she exhibits. You know what I mean? Just like, you're the best. You saved my life. Oh, I'll get as close to you as I possibly can. Please, can I get inside your diaper, sir?
Are the rest of it. It's a wonderful life. You made America great again.
Yep, great again. 2020. That's just when we were on the verge of being great. I think we got great just after she gave this speech. I think it was just as that, really deadly virus was spreading throughout the world. And ultimately allowed to spread throughout this country because the heat was going to kill it. The humidity was going to kill it. The UV light was going to kill it. No, it was going to be bleach was going to kill it. That was another thing that was going to kill it. Everything was going to kill it. Nothing did ultimately kill it, really. But, that's besides the point. But in 2020, Natalie Harp giving a conversation, and this aged well. Not like milk at all did this speech age.
November 3rd, we are going to keep America great.
Yeah, okay. Now here's Greg's part in this.
I thought she was phenomenal.
Sorry, it took him a second. He had to zip up his pants apparently before he got back on screen.
Whole thing about authorizing the experimental drugs for people who have no other option saved her life. Democrats are like,
yeah, we'll have to dive a little bit deeper into that story as well. And I'm not saying I'm 100% skeptical right off the bat, but I'm 100% skeptical right off the fucking bat. Okay, sounds a little too good to be true. And like I said, right hand up accountability if I'm inevitably wrong about that. But I'm assuming, and you know what assuming could do. But I'm going out on a limb and assuming there's some, I don't know, some details in the backstory of that need to be hashed out, let's just say.
It's not yet been established. You sons of... and here's another example of her being right by the president's side.
Yep.
They're intimating.
So he goes on to show the exact same video that we showed the other day of like this behind the scenes look. And you can see the excitement on Greg Kelly's face at like this behind the scenes look of his dear Fuhrer, of the guy that he loves and admires so much. And he's so jealous. He's half jealous and half like aroused by Natalie Harp. He wants to get with her, but also wants her position next to Donald Trump so that he could get with him too. So he's conflicted. He's conflicted. It's a conflicted place to be for Greg Kelly as far as Natalie Harp is concerned. But let's see what else he can defend here, because he's really impressed with the way that she can type. She can type so fast in caps. Like, that's quite literally kind of like the defense he's given her.
That's something, that's what they're trying to get at here. And I know that's not happening. I just think she's being penalized because she's very...
Oh, hold on. Did you say penis? As we're talking about this possible love affair, right? As we're talking about this strange and awkward relationship, one in which that looks like it kind of, replaced the Laura Loomer, relationship that was going on on Air Force One for so long. Seems like this was just like the next step for Donald Trump in like young women that definitely shouldn't be anywhere near this fucking psychopath. But Greg Kelly here is he's extremely jealous of this whole thing. Extremely jealous.
Maybe there are people who are jealous, right?
Yeah, maybe. Not me. It's definitely not me. And the reason that I'm talking about this, but maybe there's people out there that are jealous. And again, not me. It's not me. I don't know why. Are you looking at me? It's not me. I know I said jealous and I look jealous and I sound jealous and I'm jealous, but it's not me who's jealous.
It's a nasty place. But take a look, and you can tell she knows what she's doing.
He's fucking typing on a laptop. What do you mean? You can tell she knows what she's doing? Like, at what point in this whole video does she express any skills whatsoever besides being on a fucking laptop too long? Like, how many people in the chat here know how to type? You know what I mean? That's the qualification you need in order to sit there, and also not being able to smell. I forgot. Add that in. You got to not also be able to smell, because everything. Anytime you sit next to Donald Trump, you're sitting in the danger zone, right? You could at any point be catching a ton of these things. You know what I mean? So much so, I think it's.
I'm just dandy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants.
Call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
So you got to be ready for it. You got to be ready for it. That's one of the big qualifications for Natalie Harp's position, is you either can't smell or you got to be able to deal with it.
California with an unshakable dream to be the scientist.
Oh, yeah, I show this to you guys. Let me go on to where he comes in, chimes his fucking dumbass in at the end of this, and then we'll call this out.
The things of which he complains.
Right there during the 2024 Democrat convention, they're watching it in the war room, watching every little move. I always kind of wondered, how do those truth socials get produced? That's how it gets produced.
Yeah, it literally takes a room full of chuckle fucks to come out with one post for the president of the United States. For Trump to concoct a one-sentence truth social post, it takes 10 degenerates in a room and some young blonde typing for him. In case you were wondering what happens behind the scenes, even Greg Kelly had no idea how this actually worked behind the scenes. But once you pull back the curtain on the old Wizard of Oz here, it's actually 10 morons in a room and a little blonde girl sitting on Donald Trump's lap typing away on a laptop, like trying to concoct a one-sentence True Social propaganda post. So in case you wanted some insight.
This person she's got a lot of skills.
She does. None of which we can show you on the TV right now because we're not allowed to show you X-rated stuff. The best we could do for you is showing that she can type really fast in caps. And, that's it. Otherwise, the services that she's rendering to Donald Trump can no longer be seen on this program. Maybe after 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I'm not sure what they show on Newsmax after that time slot. But you'll have to come back, or maybe pay-per-view. Pornhub, possibly. You could maybe on Pornhub they show it, but not here on Newsmax. We can't.
It's fast.
More stories that she is making up.
He literally said she types fast. Like, that's literally a compliment that Greg Kelly entered into his program, entered into his monologue here. She can type fast.
This person she's got a lot of skills. She types fast.
More stories.
Yeah, she's really good at those hands. Man, is she handsy. Jeez, look at those phalanges move. Thank God we can't get a shot of Greg Kelly while this is going on behind the scenes, because he's quickly wiping up the drool on his desk right now as he's watching this. But look at the way her hands move. Ooh, you know what? Is this Trump's phone? Can you make out what the text messages are? I wonder if anybody's done that. I wonder if anybody's taken a look at, because it's either her phone or his phone, but it looks like it's open on a text message, right? I'm curious if anybody has the software or anybody's kind of slowed this down and taken a shot of that and kind of, make it clear, do some photoshopping or whatever you guys do that can do that shit, and kind of tell us what that says. That'd be funny if that revealed something that they didn't want revealed. I know this is in 2024, but still.
But I've never even heard of.
I heard her say contraception, and I heard her say birth control.
Do not limit access to birth control or IVF. That is a lie.
Well, we trust women.
I trust women also.
To restore reproductive freedom.
And I will keep women safe.
They're partners, and they work very, very well together. So what happened here? The New York Times, some nasty leaks, right, about her, intimating that something is going on with the president.
Yes, that's exactly what people are suggesting. Correct. That's exactly with the way that she looks, the way that she's always around, the love notes, right? It's just what her brother calls an unhealthy obsession brought on by this like cult-like attraction that, a lot of the people, mostly male, that surround Donald Trump have the same exact thing. Look at the way Mike Johnson speaks about him, look no further.
But the people who leak this stuff and the people who write this stuff are really telling more about themselves, right? These quotes from letters that they say they have, Well, let's
Yeah,
take a
read them
look.
out. Yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Number one, this is in the New York Times.
I don't ever want to let you down. Okay, so on its face, not as creepy, right? We'll say not as creepy as the next one that he's about to read, but just something that seems like you got an unhealthy connection with a guy that you're supposed to be working for, right? You know what I mean? I mean, if you're saying that in passing, you're saying that sitting in a meeting, you're saying that to the guy, like, okay, you don't want to let him down. You got something important coming up. Okay, but like leaving notes and shit around the fucking White House and the guy's residence and in the vehicles and stuff that says that every now, like that's we're getting strange here. I think you'd probably be called into fucking, you'd probably be called into the office of the company that you work at if you're leaving some coworker notes telling them that you never wanted to let them down and how much they meant to you, and they were like, I don't know, married with 3 fucking kids and didn't want you to do any of that. I think it'd be an issue. I'm just saying.
Don't ever want to let you down, Ms. Harp wrote, thanking Mr. Trump. And they're trying to make this out like she's some crazy stalker person, right?
No, she does that very well herself. I gotta say, I got to admit, she does that very well herself. The vibes that are emanating from Natalie Harp are definitely cult-like, psychopath, focused on Trump, enamored with Trump, loves the proximity to power, loves the luxurious lifestyle she gets to lead when she's around him, has somehow trained her nose not to work, her eyes as well. Like, that's another thing we didn't even consider. Like, it's one thing to kind of like block your nose and stuff some cotton up your nose. It's another to be able to function without sight or be able to see whatever that Donald Trump's throwing in her face. No, thanks. Absolutely not. So that's what's giving us the vibes that say this must be like some ridiculous cult-like unhealthy obsession. But, you know, like I said, she does it pretty well herself.
Wrong with that sentiment? Is there anything in the world? She has written him a series of devotional letters, including one that said, "You are all that matters to me."
That's fucking weird. That's fucking weird. Guys, chat, fucking weird, right? I mean, you get something like this from one of your coworkers, you're going to be like that. Well, that's fucking weird, right? I'm married with 3 kids for the last 25 years. To see this note all of a sudden that says like, you're all that matters to me. Like, don't you also have a wife? Like, where's Mary? What happened to Mary? Why all of a sudden am I fucking the thing that matters to you? That's strange. Don't you have a mortgage? Don't you have several kids yourself? Like, wouldn't that be first on the list? You know, I'm just saying, you're all that matters to me. Like, not your health, not your family, not your mom, your dad, you know, anything like that. Not your, you know, I don't know. I just think there'd be a few things on the list prior to again, degenerate, dementia-riddled, senile old man who's trying to, again, take over the world with his fucking tiny dick energy and utilizing the military to do so while throwing them at, incredible risk and danger. It just seems weird that would be like something that you would say to that guy. Some like the president, you're working for him, supposed to be some sort of an assistant or an aide. Just it's weird. That's a strange jump. That is a leap that shouldn't be happening between Jeffrey Epstein's best friend and, again, a young blonde aide at the White House.
I mean, that can mean a lot of things. I noticed it's just that one little fragment.
It is.
You are all that matters to me at this point in my life or my career. I mean,
that changes nothing. That you changed zero. He changed nothing. You're all that matters to me at this point in my life. Yeah. At any point in her life, for Donald Trump to be all that matters to her is fucking weird. Okay? Doesn't matter what you throw at the end of that. Doesn't mean on Thursday night, you're all that matters to me. At Saturday morning, you're all that matters to me. Monday night, like, that is irrelevant to the conversation. The fact that those words, you are all that matters to me, are involved with this woman, Natalie Harp, and the president. Again, Jeffrey Epstein's best friend, named in the Epstein files more than Jesus is named in the Bible. Again, spent 20 years partying it up and living the life and flying on jets and going to the same shindigs as these fucking, degenerate prick pedophiles that he knows and works with in the White House and has inside of his administration. I don't know, I'm just saying.
He's the president of the United States. There's nothing wrong with prioritizing the job when the stakes are this
Yeah,
great.
but what job are we talking about? I mean, are we talking hand? Are we talking blow? Because I think those are the jobs that are more likely associated with what Natalie Harp does for Donald Trump, more than, again, you're talking about a career or like a position, right? So what job are we talking? Handy? Blowy? What are you saying? Come on, you got to specify.
And, there are a lot of cynical people out there. Mark Halpern, who I love, actually, he's totally...
Okay, that's probably that's a good segue. That's a good segue. The fact that the the fact that the Newsmax clip cut out is probably the best segue that could have happened. So what do you say we dive into a little bit of Natalie Harp's brother, right? We don't have to take too much out of, too much time watching this, but I think he does give a little bit of insight, useful insight to why we might be seeing this sort of behavior from her sister. And I think he kind of puts a lot on his mother, as it were, and the things that she believed and the things that she taught these kids growing up. But he also recognizes what, an unhealthy obsession this whole thing is and how ridiculous it is for him to, again, see his sister in this position and just so loving and adoring and enamored with this old, wrinkly, pompous, smelly, stanky son of a bitch who's known for being an absolute greaseball, who's known for being an absolute fucking criminal, womanizer, abuser, all of the things that we could go on and say. So he's a little bit shocked to see this, but, we'll just play maybe the first 2-3 minutes of this interview with Natalie Harp's brother on CNN. I think he's with Aaron Burnett, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here.
For a few years, but obviously you can see they grew up together. He's sharing these photos without front of them together as children, weighing in on the intense attention that Natalie is now getting after Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff raised questions about her role in this White House. Preston, she's always loved orange shit, huh? Just can't get away from the orange things. Maybe we should have saw that coming, Natalie's brother. Maybe this this love affection with orange stuff that looked wrinkly. Maybe that's you should have noticed that was coming. Ossoff raised questions about her role in this White House. Preston, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and I know you've shared some photos with us, you and your sister Natalie as children. Obviously, there you are, Padres fans. There you are with your parents. And now your sister is front and center in the news. I mean, front and center as it gets. Did you ever think you'd see something like this?
No, it really blows my mind.
I got to say, he looks like he just got done shredding some fucking surf before this interview, or he just got done with one hell of a fucking skateboard session. You know what I mean? He's got the Bud of California hat and everything. Salute, my man. Salute to this.
I mean, your sister, my understanding is, first became known to Trump back in 2019. And at the time, she credited him, Preston, with helping her beat a tragic battle, but one that she incredibly beat with bone cancer. Here's what she said.
This president pushed that forward and possibly saved your life.
He did. As I like to say, I'm not dying from cancer anymore thanks to President Trump. I'm living with cancer. I'm living the quality of life that I always wanted to have, that it took me 4 years to find because I wasn't offered it here. It took President Trump going to Washington to be able to get that for me.
And after that, Preston, she had speaking slots at the Faith and Freedom Conference, at the 2020 RNC, right? She became very high profile and then started working for Trump. How much do you think she truly believed that Trump saved her life?
Well, that's an interesting question. But if she thinks about it, what he did was he made experimental drugs legal to try, and that insurance would pay for it. So it's
well, if you really think about it, what he did was sign a fucking piece of paper, right? That's what he really did. I don't think it was Donald Trump sitting around a fucking boardroom table being like, you know what we should really do is make all these experimental drugs legal. You know what I mean? So I think what he did was signed a piece of paper and be enforced. But what he goes on to say here is like, it's not like he went to the hospital and out of pocket paid for your care. Like, I think it's one thing to, to be, I don't know, grateful for, that's happening so that you could, get the benefit from the policies, to get the benefit from the drugs, but to take it to the levels to be like, this guy physically put his hands on me and saved my soul. And now I owe him the rest of my days. I owe him the rest of my time. I need to devote my life to him is clearly strange behavior, clearly cult-like, weird-ass fucking behavior from people, like Natalie Harp.
He like physically saved her life, It's kind of different. Like, it's like Donald Trump didn't pay his own money to save my sister's life. So it really just depends how you look at it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, and look, I guess it's just one example of everyone trying to understand, who this person is who spends so much time and, is with the president all the time, right? He's the commander in chief and she has such an important role. So there was a series called The Art of the Surge just a couple of years ago, Preston, 2024. And in it, your sister talks extensively about working for Trump. I just wanted to play a clip of it for you. Here she is.
Politics was never something I liked. Business was my background, real estate, MBA. I was very much not interested in politics in California. I feel like you get the same kind of sort of politicians. But when I was sick, I started watching the Republican debates. He was my first exposure to politics, and I loved it. Like, this guy, he gets it.
So she says there, he was her first exposure to politics, right? You guys grew up in the same home, the same family. So you understand where she's coming from in a way that no one else does.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think drew her to him?
Not her. Yeah. Well, my mom raised us with the idea that American exceptionalism was the correct way of looking at things, that the United States is the boss of the world, that, like, slavery was back then, that was normal. People weren't bad because they had slaves. And honestly, and it's like Trump wants to take all those books out of schools. He wants to rewrite history. And so, like, I think that my sister, unfortunately, didn't break out of that delusion that my mom raised us with. And Trump is like everything that my mom taught us to respect. So I think that's where her infatuation for Trump comes from, honestly, because I don't think it's a physical attraction. Let's get real, like.
Well, again, that's what she's expressing, right? And I think to a certain extent, she's noticed how to do what Hal calls the Macron handshake, right? To butter this guy up, give him the flirty eyes, to send the fucking loving messages, to make it seem like she's, so care, he's all that matters to her in her life. Meanwhile, again, she just likes the proximity to power, right? She likes being at the White House. She likes flying in in Air Force One. She likes being in the presidential motorcade. She likes going to all the events. She likes joining him on his foreign travel. Like, you know what I mean? So a lot of what the leaders do, Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, like, they come in, they butter Trump's asshole up, and then they go in and they stick it as deep as possible when they get back to their country. It's just like, I feel like there's a little bit of that going on, but also the affinity for what Donald Trump espouses. So a little bit of the background there from their childhood, from their upbringing, and what their mom used to say, right? I mean, I think that's very closely aligned with the Republican Party's views today. Like, just because you own slaves doesn't make you a bad person. Slavery isn't necessarily a bad thing. White power type of shit, white exceptionalism, United States exceptionalism. Everybody sucks. If you're brown or black, you suck. If you're white, you're great. Like, that type of stuff. If her mom was legitimately teaching them those things and saying those things during their upbringing, well, you can see how, if you didn't kind of grow out of it, apparently like her brother did, and recognize that it was all horse shit, and that there was, other ways of thinking out there, then you kind of are left in only one lane, especially where now you kind of attach yourself to this maniacal fucking genocidal prick in Donald Trump because you think he has the hand of God and somehow saved your life directly. Now, all you realize is that you have to butter him up, give him some fucking fluttery eyes, wear some scantily clad clothes, wear some fucking provocative perfume, hang around him, say that you're going to be with close proximity and how much you love him, and then you can reap all the benefits, right? You can sit here and you don't have to spend $1 your money to get all these fancy clothes, and you probably get, extra payments, as it were, and probably fucking allowances to go here and there. So there's probably multiple reasons, but it makes sense when you look at her backup, her upbringing, her background, and especially, what she's been able to get from this kind of, relationship she has with Donald Trump and how she's kind of utilized that to her benefit as well. But let's take a look real quick at Jen and Pumps from the I've Had It podcast, because I believe they have a couple things to say about this situation as well. Let me throw this on your screen. This is titled, Trump aide Natalie Harp exposed by own family, new terrifying leaks on her own obsession. So I believe they're also, hold on, I think it lost connection with the browser. Let me go back. I think they're also talking about the brothers' appearance on CNN. Sorry, as I kind of put this back on in the background. For some reason, it says I couldn't share the audio, so I got to try it again. See if this works. Put this on the screen, add this to the stage, and we're back in action. So I'm curious what, funny color commentary Jen and Pumps have to add to this whole situation. And then we have, I think, what's going to be another funny video from the Dangerous Ones, going through a couple viral videos making fun of Donald Trump and Natalie Harp. So figured I'd throw that in as well. So let's go through this one from Jen and Pumps. Like I said, just a couple minutes to see what they're saying, any funny color commentary from them about this entire situation. So let's see what else we can get into here.
Doing coordinated defenses of Natalie Harp. They are so pathetic. And Natalie Harp's brother has entered the chat, you guys. And he's speaking out about his sister. Play the clip.
Well, my mom raised us with the idea that American exceptionalism was the correct way of looking at things, that the United States is the boss of the world, that, like, you know, slavery was back then, that was normal. People weren't bad because they had slaves. And honestly, and it's like Trump wants to take all those books out of schools. He wants to rewrite history. And so, like, I think that my sister, unfortunately, didn't break out of that delusion that my mom raised us with. And Trump is like everything that my mom taught us to respect. So I think that's where her infatuation for Trump comes from, honestly.
Who's been saying this whole time? That this, for evangelical Christians, Trump is exactly what the evangelical church has cultivated. Ding, ding, ding.
It's just one fake salesman to another, right? It's just one fucking fake person trying to sell something that they absolutely don't believe in to enrich themselves, seeing that in another person like Donald Trump that does the same thing, that fucking faked his way through his life, the rich kid that pretended to know this, that, or the other thing, the rich kid that pretended to be the good businessman but did nothing but bankrupt companies, bankrupt casinos, throw money away, lose money on real estate, and inevitably figure out that if he could just get his name on the side of the building, he could then take credit for building the entire structure. And, you know, because he's Donald Trump, he'd be able to kind of pressure and you know, kind of annoy the other people involved in the project to allow him to take all the credit, even though, you know, they did the majority of the work and he just came in at the last second and, you know, kind of inked a deal for his name to be on the side of it. But that's the same thing here. You know what I mean? It's kind of, you know, Natalie Harp also figuring out that Donald Trump is exactly what her mother told her to believe in, told her to follow, which is these evangelical, you know, bullshit artists that go out there and yell the loudest and claim to be this, that, or the other thing, and, you know, but live a completely and totally different lifestyle. Like, what's the psychopath Ken? What's the Ken name where he made the evil face towards that reporter one time? You know, the evangelical asshole, Kenneth Copeland. Like one of those types, you know what I mean? Like, you know, preaches to the gospel that he's he's a man of the people and, you know, a man that follows the teachings of Jesus Christ and giving back. And meanwhile, he's flying around in private jets because he couldn't be near people. You know, he can't be stuck on a tube with normal people like the devils. What if he has to get away from the devil? What if he sat next to the devil? But they go on there and they sow your seed. You know, you send in 500, you're bound to get 15,000 in return next month, next year, or maybe next lifetime, but it's worth your risk. If you sow your seed now and send in 100, send in 1,000, 10,000, you're bound to get some response, by God. You know, the more you give, the more that you're supposed to get in return. Meanwhile, they're fucking, you know, they got money counters going brrr in the background, you know, and they're just thinking about what their next purchase is going to be, you know, where their next mansion's going to sit, how many yachts they want to buy, where their jet's going to fly to next, and nobody gets anything in return. You know, people get poor, they spend all their money thinking if they give their life savings to the church, right, that Jesus Christ will inevitably reward them with, you know, financial fucking benefit, or, you know, it will cure their ailment, you know, it'll cure their cancer. Just sow your seed, you know, and fucking, you know, Jesus himself will come down and touch you on the shoulder. I'm sure you guys have seen the infomercials, but Donald Trump's the same thing. Just a bullshit artist out there pretending to know this, pretending to know that, pretending to be a fucking Catholic or a Christian and know the teachings of the Bible. Meanwhile, can't tell you a goddamn sentence in the book. Claims to be a builder. Knows everything about building, but can't tell you a goddamn thing about building a construction. Right? Claims to be rich, but everything he does is the most gaudy, shitty, disgusting looking shit you could possibly imagine. Shit that actual rich people look at and go, absolutely not. So he doesn't know how to be anything. He's a big fucking phony pretend artist that looks in the mirror and sees an absolutely, you know, fucking, you know, an incredibly wasteful piece of shit looking back at him, and he knows it. So he has to pretend to be everything that he's not.
I mean, you have, and it's textbook. And of course, I've done a deep dive on all this. Natalie Harp was homeschooled by her mother. The white exception.
I just took a month-long beating over the homeschool content. So you make the clip this time. You do the viral clip about the homeschooling.
Okay. The homeschool curriculum was from Bob Jones, which is a biblical worldview. And basically, from what I can glean, it is that evil, you have to overcome evil. And white supremacy, I mean, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but white supremacy, regardless of what you do, as long as the white people are in charge, and everything evil is overcome, and you get to, the Christians rise up, the white Christians rise up, it's all good. So ding, 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 you were right. It is just so sad that this woman has completely devoted her life to this man who, I guarantee you, if he had any reason to, he would throw her under the bus in a fucking heartbeat. But it doesn't surprise me that she was homeschooled. I'll take the blow.
Well, that goes for everybody, right? I mean, even Goering, right? Even Himmler got thrown under the bus at the end of the Nazis' reign, right? Even they were kind of called out for their, attempts to talk with the Allies and create their own deal behind Hitler's back. So at the end of it, they all get thrown under the bus. It's inevitable. Right? These cult members, they absolutely know, like, how many cults survived long enough for, people to thrive within it. It's usually you're hearing about the cults because they're all lined up dead wearing the same shoes, drinking the same fucking potion or drinking the same juice or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? It's usually not a good thing when you find out ultimately about the cults. Or again, they're fighting the federal government down in Waco. It's typically when you find out a little bit about where these cults hang out and what they do typically. But, when you hear more about the upbringing, when you hear more about the white exceptionalism, it gives you an indication as to why she kind of filtered herself into the scene. And then she's kind of figured out how to make it to the top. Natalie Harp. She's figured out how to get the closest proximity to power by doing whatever she needs to do that we just, that we talked about earlier. And that's where, she feels comfortable. Not only are they espousing the shit that she believes, but now she can profit off of that, right? She can use that proximity to power to get all of these nice and fancy things and expensive trips, and she doesn't have to pay, and she can fly on Air Force One and everything else that we talked about.
I read some reporting that when he first found Natalie, he urged her to change her appearance to look more like Ivanka. And so we need to remember that.
Oh, fuck. I have that written down right now. I totally forgot. I totally fucking forgot. That's exactly what this is. Like, Natalie Harp is Donald Trump's excuse to say that he got to fuck his daughter. That's basically what it is. Okay. Let's just be clear. Let's put all the fucking cards on the table. That is exactly what that is. I'm so mad that I forgot to fucking say that. So mad that I forgot to say. That's exactly what it is. He never ever got to fulfill his dream of having sexual intercourse with his daughter Ivanka. So this is the closest that he's going to get before he inevitably kicks the fucking bucket. So that's what's going on. He's got this person that he could just, if he squints, his eyes are really puffy all the time. Like, when that happens, like, he can just barely, if he can just bake out the silhouette of Ivanka. So that's kind of what keeps her near and dear to his heart. But I think that's spot on there by Jennifer. But, just for the sake of time, I'm probably going to run out of it at some point. And if I do leave myself, we can dive back into that one. But I want to throw on this Dangerous One video that's taking a look at these viral clips going around from these Natalie Harp videos. So let me see if I can throw this on your screen real quick. And like I said, if we have time, we'll dive back into the I've Had It one there where they're going on about Natalie. But this one here, like I said, the Dangerous Ones, they got 216,000 subscribers. This was a couple hours ago. Got about 8,000 views, and it's titled Trump's Natalie Harp Problem Just Got Bigger. And typically they have some funny color commentary. So I just want to see, if we can add anything or maybe just add some laughs to this whole show. So what do you say we dive into this one real quick?
Natalie Harp, Trump's hot side piece or hospice nurse? Yeah. I'm Jim Drastic.
I'm Tiffany Drastic.
I'm Nick Knutson. And today on The Dangerous Ones, we are diving into what's looking more and more like a Monica Lewinsky situation.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The ballad of Natalie Harp. She is around Trump's orbit. There's a lot going on. We're going to show you some videos. We got some memes. We got a lot of fun. Let's get dangerous, everybody.
She's kind of like a stage 5 clinger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's freaky, some of this stuff.
Folks, don't miss a dangerous moment. Hit like, subscribe, and the little bell to get notified each time we launch a new episode on the Dangerous Ones Network and on Really American. Sure means a lot to us. Thanks, you guys. Okay, so Natalie Harp. She's been around the president's orbit for a while. Everybody's talking about it. It's now making, it's going everywhere. It's going super viral. I think what we should do, is just get started with video one.
Okay.
And this will explain a little bit. Watch this.
Natalie Harp, who is the woman sometimes referred to as the human printer for her role in printing. You can see her right there on the screen, and typing dictated social media posts of Trump's. And Natalie Harp has jumped back into the news recently for a number of reasons, not just this past 24 hours. Remember when Trump's knockoff Air Force One, of course you do, in a catering car because of the threat of an Iranian attack? Well, Natalie Harp was one of a handful of special aides he took with him. Well, top cabinet officials...
Literally, that was a joke that we were telling on this show when we found out about this whole catering thing, was a joke that Natalie Harp was on there with him. Like, he was on there with the cheeseburgers and the French fries, and I could guarantee you the only one else sitting on the floor in that catering truck was probably going to be Natalie Harp. Like, that was quite literally the joke going around, and it turns out it couldn't be a joke because it was fucking reality. That's the ridiculousness of that situation, was we had people crammed into a catering truck. I'm sure Natalie Harp had no problem, but everybody else that had a sense of smell or eyeballs definitely didn't like being in a confined location with Donald Trump for an extended period of time, even just to go to the plane, 25 feet away. But the fact that she actually was stuffed into that catering truck with him, doing God knows what, taking over for Laura Loomer, you're going to have to perform in these situations. So, we can only, you can only assume what else was going on, depending on who else was in that catering truck. But this was the joke of the moment, now found out to be exactly the case.
Like, say, Secretary of State Marco Rubio were left to board the plane that was supposedly being targeted by Iran. Thanks to reporting from Haberman and Swan, we know that Natalie Harp has spent the last few years writing Donald Trump intimate...
And hold on, I think there was was it the next one that I was going? Yeah, there's one right here. Let me go to this one because they got a couple of funny videos that they play here too.
The insane story of Natalie Harp, an insane woman who is insanely obsessed with Donald Trump. Natalie Harp is Lil Donnie's close personal assistant who follows Donnie around everywhere, carries his diapers in her bag, and has a little handheld printer to print out adoring articles of Donald Trump to then hand to Donald Trump, and lastly, to read out loud to Donald Trump because Donald Trump can. She was born in 1991 to a relatively rich and devout Christian family in California. In 2015, she developed cancer. With the help of an immunotherapy treatment, she eventually entered remission. And for literally no reason at all, she gave Donald Trump credit.
Oh my God.
She took an FDA-approved drug prescribed by a doctor. And somehow, Donald Trump made that happen with an unreal...
My hero.
She went on Fox News and praised him so loudly that he called in to bask in the adoration. From that moment on, she was in, and she burrowed deep like a tick into the musty, wrinkled, fleshy, flabby folds of our corporate president. In 2020, she became an anchor on OAN, holding nightly tirades on how Mark Zuckerberg stole the election, and that Marxists were using the COVID vaccine to mutate people. Seriously. But her unending vomit of Donnie praise won her a singular honor. She joined Donnie's personal staff, which is actually the second time Donnie has gone mail order bride shopping at OAN, by poaching a young blonde anchor that he pays to spend time with him. In 2023, she wrote Donnie a series of letters, which is again funny because she knows he can't read. She filled the letters with Bible verses and claimed that he was the only thing in the world that mattered to her. The Secret Service, upon reading these letters, flagged as a security risk. Trump overruled them, and so the creepy creepo got to stay. Funnily enough, it seems to be her that posted the Trump as Jesus slop. She handles most of his posts, and the process is literally insane. She goes on her laptop and takes screenshots of posts she thinks he should like or repost. Then she takes out her tiny printer, plugs in the USB, and prints them one by one. Hundreds of them.
And again, that was something that wasn't shown in that little snippet that we saw behind the scenes where she has this, apparently that's why they call her the human printer. She prints out these facts and articles and she'll follow them around the golf course and print out these headlines that are gloating and, anything that says anything positive about him or anything she thinks he needs to respond to. She'll literally print it out on the spot for him. Like, remember how when he was coming out of the court cases, he would be given like a bunch of the paper, like he would just have a stack of fucking papers coming out of the court and it would just be different headlines that he wanted to either talk about or call bullshit or say something about. Like that's what Natalie Harp was doing. She's sitting there just printing these things out rapid fire as much as she possibly can, creating tweets when she's not doing that. Like that's what her job is, which is why she's got the human printer, name as far as that's concerned. But I'm curious what they say as far as their commentary on the back end of this. Let's jump into that.
Totally normal.
Could you imagine that's your job to just print off screenshots for an 80-year-old boss who gives the yay or nay? Yay or nay?
No.
And then you get the check mark and you have to play like memory game so that you can post later. What are we doing?
God. What?
This is what they're busy doing all day?
Yeah. That is crazy.
Great. Great.
which computes.
No wonder they're like distracted. There's no food on the USS Lincoln.
Right.
I get it now.
You know, and this is the other thing too. Like when the Lewinsky thing happened with Clinton, it completely derailed, you know, his presidency to some extent. And you know, this is like this. He's going to be like he wants to come out and say, "Yeah, I'm fucking her." But he's married, so he knows he can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I don't get about guys like this. Why do you get married then?
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Like, just fuck around.
Yeah.
You know?
He wants
Ivanka. I mean,
yeah. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
So a little bit more backstory about why this is in the news. In case you guys missed it. So John Ossoff, who's running for, he's a senator from Georgia. He's running for re-election. He was on the stump.
And again, they just kind of go into a little bit about the, the reason why Natalie Harp's making headlines at this point, or why her name's in the headlines, or why Fox News and OAN are doing hardcore defense of Natalie Trump at this moment. But I thought it'd be funny to jump into a little bit of the viral videos that they were playing about Natalie Harp. It was pretty fucking funny, and their commentary after was pretty well done too. But not to utilize too much of their live. But all right, let's see if we can jump into this, because there's new threats of an increased attack from Iran. This is Preston Stewart kind of giving us an update as to what's going on, or at least being kind of, thrown out there by the Iranian side because of the confidence they've been given, right? The ways in which they've still continued to strike. The Houthis have still continued to strike different things, but the United States is no longer responding, right? It's no longer this tit for tat. You respond, I respond. Now the United States is kind of sitting back and trying to, put everything back on the naval blockade that they have in place, and just Donald Trump's lies about the Strait of Hormuz being wide open at this point in time, and all of these ships and everything that's coming through, and everything's back to normal, baby. But anything but that is the truth. So this is, again, Preston Stewart. You can see the title here down the bottom. Iran's new threat: lift the blockade or we attack, right? So again, threatening further escalation, which I think on one hand, kind of shows that there is some pressures. Obviously, we talked about this, that, there's definitely been some ramifications for the Iranian population, for the Iranian side, as far as inflation, as far as degradation of, their way of life and economic problems that they're facing because of the blockade. So, this is kind of showing that they're, willing to escalate, but also it's because they want this blockade lifted at the same time. So I just want to go into a little bit of Preston Stewart's update and seeing if there's anything we can update or inform the crowd about. What do you say we dive into it?
With Iran. No more talks, just wait them out. Iran, meanwhile, is taking a different approach, threatening to go on the offensive if the blockade isn't lifted soon, with one analyst saying, quote, "There's a widespread view in Iran that the main war has not yet begun." Now, this comes alongside new intelligence suggesting that the IRGC used the ceasefire during the Memorandum of Understanding to send weapons and advisors to a number of their proxy groups throughout the region, encouraging them to carry out attacks against the United States and or Israel.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. So not only do they have enough weapons for themselves, but they also have enough weapons to continue to stockpile their proxies. Right. So Donald Trump, again, we eliminated their military capabilities, but also we have not eliminated any of their military capabilities, and they're still able to, again, restockpile, rebuild stuff during these, periods of ceasefire, during these periods where, the bombs aren't being dropped. So that's obviously a good sign. That's a good sign that they're still able to do that. They're not worried about themselves yet. They're not even worried about not having enough weapons to supply their proxies yet.
That's fighting resume. And a key component here is many in the IRGC's senior ranks view the resumption of the war not as a matter of if, but when. CNN overnight reported that President Trump told administration envoys to halt their conversations with Iran. Additionally, White House officials have recently communicated to political allies that they are shifting their strategy from hammer Iran ASAP to strangle them over time. Maybe it will work. Blockades can be incredibly damaging to a country, as can economic sanctions. Personally, I'm a little bit skeptical that this is going to be enough to actually accomplish any of our war aims in Iran, which we still seem to be having a bit of a debate about. More on that here in a second. Vice President and the President, not exactly on the same terms, but here's the deal. The sanctions and the blockade can do a lot of damage. They do more damage over time. Will they bring Iran to the negotiating table? Maybe. That appears to be the approach right now. Just sit back and wait. Will they be enough?
Again, that at the same time, that plan is to continue the economic pressures and the economic problems that the United States has faced right now. That's what that is. So it's also, we're going to wait them out, but it's also going to be the economic problems that you're seeing and facing right now that are going to persist. You know what I mean? So not only do they have the potential to get worse, again, the more frustrated, the more danger that Iran sees that they're under, or the more that they see their kind of hold, let's just say, on this situation, grasp on the situation slipping, the much more likely they are to do something drastic. The much more likely they are to activate their proxies to do something drastic, which again will have downstream ramifications, downstream effects. And that's something that we're going to have to deal with at that point in time. But, the fact that when this blockade first started, first things that we were hearing from our intel agencies here in the United States is the fact that Iran all of a sudden had a much more readiness and willingness to withstand the blockade than they originally anticipated. Like, it wasn't going to be 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden they were going to be brought to their knees and they would have absolutely no economic resources to continue the fight. They found out that it was going to be much, much longer than that, much deeper into the future, and they could withstand that for a longer period of time than we thought. Then we found that the United States could outlast the president of the United States could basically expose the population to, as far as economic damages, strategic petroleum reserves, the cost of diesel, the cost of jet fuel, like all of the different things that we've seen come from this war. Like, we don't have the economic timetable. We don't have the economic time frame to withstand the time in which the Iranians are willing to, put their people under pressure, or willing to see the inflation rise in their country, right? That would put a lot of people out on the streets. That would see a lot of people inevitably lose their livelihood, lose their careers, lose their ability to protect or care for their children in this country. The longer and longer it goes, the more people are affected, and the more heavily people are affected by these rise in gas prices, grocery prices, clothing prices, the whole 9 yards at this point, especially if we make it into the winter months. Right, when the weather starts changing and heating oil becomes an absolute necessity, like it's a life or death thing, whether or not you have it or not. It's a situation in whether or not your house is going to survive, because if your pipes freeze up and your water tank bursts and your pipes burst, depending on which way the way in which your house is heated, like that's clearly going to ruin your entire house, or ruin a big portion of your house, which is going to be incredibly expensive to fix, no matter how you go about doing it. So, like, there's different ways in which this whole thing and the problems we're facing is going to change as the season change, and how the heating oil in the oil industry, kind of functions, and why it functions in general. Like, that's when you're going to start seeing real problems. Not that you're not seeing it now, but that's when the added problems are going to come in, when people are starting to, not being able to afford the oil for their house for heat. And next thing you know, the pipes are bursting, they're dead because of hypothermia. We're talking real life and death situations here.
To have Iran voluntarily give up all of their enriched uranium and guarantee that they'll never pursue a nuclear weapon, stop arming proxies, and give up their missile program, and all of that and more, and not interfere in the Strait of Hormuz, I'm a little bit skeptical. All right. Iran has already been dealing with pretty significant sanctions for a long time. And of course, we have examples around the world where sanctions alone are enough to kind of influence behavior, but not enough for a country to give up what they view as kind of critical.
Right. So, I mean, the clearest example we could look at is Russia, right? A country that's had a long time to set up its economy, set up its way of life, knowing that it would be under sanctions, or is constantly under sanctions, and has to find a way to disassociate itself from the West, so they could operate in a case of war, in a case of, again, heavily sanctioned times for their country. Like, they found out how to set up the economy and set up the military, not where they don't face dangers, or not where they don't face pressure, or they don't face, kind of a downturn as far as their economy, but it can go on for a lot longer, and it can sustain for a lot longer than originally anticipated. Right, they've isolated themselves enough where they can just kind of function inwards for a longer period of time to keep things rolling, until inevitably, the eggs crack, and finally the pressure put on the economy is too much for the country to handle, and that's when things go belly up, much like you saw with the Soviet Union. So let me see here, because I know we're rapidly running out of time. But while all this is going on, ladies and gentlemen, while we're seeing all of the problems that we're facing with the military, we're facing all of the problems we're seeing with the wars, with the economic pressures, with the tariffs and the problems that those have kind of caused. Everything that we're seeing right now that is, caused by this madman. What's he doing? What's he worrying about? Well, he's wandering his dementia-riddled, senile ass around the White House lawn, trying to tell everybody how great the helipad is. That absolutely was not an issue to begin with. I've seen thousands and thousands of helicopters. Well, maybe not thousands of helicopters, but thousands of times I've seen a helicopter land at the White House. So at what point in time millions and millions and millions of dollars needed to be spent on this whole project? I don't know. Apparently it was so Donald Trump didn't have to see a slight slope on the grounds. If you're listening to what he said in this, but I just want to show you just how silly this situation is, like just how out to lunch our president is, and what is like first and foremost on his mind at a time when we're seeing so much, economic, threat, economic danger, people losing their livelihood left, right, and center, access to healthcare being ripped away from people, cancer funding for cancer research funding being stripped away, people fucking getting sick from diseases floating around in our foods because we have an absolute fucking moron running our health and our health services in this country. But what is Trump doing? He's talking about rocks and granite and dirt and grass and construction terms that he has no clue what the fuck he means, right? So this guy that's supposed to be the best builder, right? Supposed to know more about building. That's what he came from. He comes from real estate, comes from building, built the New York City skyline, if you ask the morons that follow him. But what's he talking about? Well, he's out there literally making things up on the spot, trying to make it look like he has some idea what he's talking about. And then he goes, it's just watch. We'll watch a couple minutes of this, but just the amount of I don't even know. Oh my God. And it's like, luckily he's doing this shit to a certain extent and he's not starting new wars. So like happy to have him wandering his demented ass around the White House grounds. But to the extent in which he's still spending millions and billions of dollars on these useless projects that didn't need to be a thing in the first place, especially at a point in time where so many people are suffering in this country. Like this is what he's talking about and this is what he's doing. Watch how he wandered himself around, not only in the conversation, but also just on the grounds in general. Check this shit out.
We had it. It was paid for by the company that manufactures the helicopters. We didn't pay any money for it. This is different. This is the road for the White House, and that was done through donations, including donations from me. And you can see the kind of granite this is.
He figures, you know what? I've made $4 trillion off the backs of you poor suckers. I might as well pretend at least to kick back in a few bucks. But, I'm sure once we get the actual bill, we'll find out that the U.S. taxpayer, footed the bill for every single fucking rock, blade of grass, and fucking section of concrete that he's talking about right now.
Granite has a 1,000,000-year life. It's a very strong stone. It will never break. It will.
Oh, it's too fucking good. It is too good. Did you guys know that rock lasts a long time? You didn't know that, did you? I bet you fucking woke up this morning and you were like, you know what? I don't think rock lasts a long time. I think rock is something that we shouldn't build out of anymore because it totally degrades right away. Did you guys know that rock lasts long? I'm sure you guys had some idea that granite and other types of stone it's really hard and it lasts a long, long time. You'll be amazed to find that out. Fuck, but the builder, fucking Bob the builder here, he says, knows more about construction than anybody on earth, but just wanted to kind of let everybody else know how long the lifespan of rock is.
It will never leak. It will never do anything. This is the highest quality stone you can get.
Well, it might leak. Eventually it might actually leak because, as we know, water is pretty penetrating, right? It's very, erosive. Kind of, we'll look at the Grand Canyon, I say, for one big example that we could look at. But even rock, as long as it'll live in that 1,000,000 years, if it's got enough water flowing through it, it eventually will, kind of carve out its own rut. And if it goes straight through that stone, it will eventually leak. It will. It may take a long time, a very, very long time, but it will leak. So it just, a builder, somebody of your genius as far as building is concerned, should know that.
And especially for something like this, it's rated 1 million year plus. That means it has 1 million year life.
That means they tested it for 1 million years. You guys know that? In order to rate something, you would have had to test it for that long. So apparently there's been some really long tests happening in the old granite industry. You know, 1.5 million years ago, they started these tests and just now getting the results from that. So they can confidently say about 1 million years now as far as the lifespan for that patio.
Imagine that. It's 35,000 pounds per square inch. If you look at hard concrete is 5,000 pounds. This is 35,000. So nature is.
Somebody fed him those numbers right before he walked out. Like, just tell him, just say 35 and 5. Concrete's 5. This granite's 35. That'll let him know how substantial the rock is. You know what I mean? Just give him these numbers there, Chief.
Stronger than what the human can produce. It's really pretty amazing. It comes from California, from a quarry in California.
Oh, so it must be stoned. Get it? California, weed, stoned, granite. Come on now. Bam! Give me the symbols.
And it's a very special stone. This is also used. This carries on out into the helipad. The pad is out there now. It's very.
Is it out there now? You're not keeping it inside for safekeeping? The helipad is outside. Are you sure you don't want to have the helicopters fly inside? I'm sure we could make that happen. If you want, maybe we'll probably have to get rid of the drone port on the roof, sir. But if you do want a roof that opens, we could probably make that work for you. You could probably land the helicopters inside, but typically outside where it goes, keeping it outside, usually the safe bet. But, you know, what are you going to do?
Finished. The hard work is done. The beautiful work is finished. They're putting the granite top on. And the granite top says, "The seal of the United States of America." That's the exact term.
No president? They left out president. They didn't want to throw in the president because if you try to recreate the seal of the president of the United States of America, typically you have to use the word president in there. I'm just, you might want to throw that in there somewhere. You might want to, if they're actually out there doing the letters, might want to give them a whistle and say, "Hey, Chief, stop the building. Make sure you don't forget the word president, because that's a pretty important part of the seal of the president of the United States."
If you look at the seals of the presidents, the seal of the president of the United States.
Yeah, that one. That's the one. That's what you were looking for. That's the one we were going for. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
The president is in the White House. This is for many presidents. This isn't for me. This is for many presidents.
Yeah, you'll be dead. You'll be dead long before this is fucking ready to use.
We'll have it for a long time. The other thing we could do, if you notice, we took it up and redid one aspect because we had a lot of slope on it, and I felt it was too much slope. It's a slope for the rain.
This is where architects and engineers got together and they said, "Sir, much like everybody that's building anything has to do, they have to think about where the water is going to go. Because typically you don't want it pooling next to the foundation, nor do you want it seeping back in to the household and filling up the basement with water. You also don't want that to happen on the White House grounds. You don't want, Marine One to be landing in 6 inches of fucking water on the fucking White House lawn. So what you got to do typically is slope the ground away from the home, right? That's what you want to do that so the water runs away from the home so it's not puddling next to or inside of, God forbid that. So what engineers and architects did is they came together and they looked at this field when they originally, building this and doing the landscape, and they said, this is the correct level. This is the correct pitch that we're going to give this grass, we're going to give this land in order to have the water effectively run off of it so that it doesn't, again, become a fucking mud puddle that, a helicopter's trying to land on, because typically not a good situation when that happens, not the most ideal when that stuff happens. So what we're going to try to do in avoiding that is just slope it ever so slightly. And Donald Trump thought that was a problem. Doesn't understand the science behind it apparently, and thought that he needed it very flat. So now what we're going to have is just a big pool every time it rains apparently on the center of this fucking helipad.
But I felt it was too much soap. So rather than doing
too much soap, way too much soap. Anytime you're cleaning a helipad, you never want to use that much soap apparently if you're asking Donald Trump. So what he did was he gave it more soap.
So the rain gets off, but I didn't want to have the slope that they had. They had a slope that would have been like for a waterfall, not for rain.
Right, waterfalls.
And so we, before we put the letters down, we lifted it and made it dead flat. Sort of reminded me of the Woolman
Dead
ring.
flat. Exactly what you don't want is dead flat. Right, exactly smack dab, right in the middle of what you don't want to see happen as far as that is concerned, for drainage, consideration, at least.
In Central Park. So it starts here, and this goes into the entrance of the White House, and this is pure white granite.
You sure you don't want to make him take a taxi? You don't want him need what? You don't want to airlift him from the helipad to the White House? I think it'd be a smart idea to keep the walkway going from the helipad to the White House, their eventual destination. That would be the smart thing to do. But, please do explain it to us like we're fucking 2 years old in the head like you are.
Very high quality and the highest quality. And again, when you hear that 35,000...
And look, you can see in a couple of these sections, he actually walks over at some point to the... Let me see if I can find this point. Because it looks awful strange to me. Right? Yeah, this is the part. He walks over, and he kind of stands in front of it for a second. Let me see if I can pick up the part that I'm talking about here. So he walks over to it.
You know the word
right?
media?
What, do you know the word media? What the fuck are you talking about? You fucking... Yes, I'm sure they know the word media. They're not, they're not morons.
This is serious media. And you guys are doing a great job. Sorry to take an extra week and a half, but lifting it up was one of the best things.
Yeah, so an extra week and a half it cost the project, apparently, to have Donald Trump get his wish for making this a flat piece of ground. Let me see. There was one part. You could actually see it. Oh, and that one right there. Ready?
Like 1/10
Hold
of
on.
an inch. And it's the exact same size.
See if they back up enough.
These are real.
So you can see it right now, basically. So I don't know what they think they did on the top of this, but if you look just above my head here, look, let me get out of the way, and you can look just above where it says the word construction on the OAN title that they're putting on the chyron they have on the screen. But if you look just in this vicinity right here, like you can see how like poorly these are laid together. Like Donald Trump in this continued to say that like the cracks were at like 1/10 of an inch. He only knows that because it was 9/10 of an inch longer than his dick. But anyway, you can see the cracks, and it looks very shoddily done, right? I mean, even the level that he's standing on, and I know they're probably not, all the way finished, and I'm sure I'm, giving him some shit where some shit shouldn't be had at this point in time, but definitely looks kind of janky to me. Looks awful janky. They're kind of at different levels. You can see in some places the crack lines up and it's very flush and very level. In other places, one tile's above the other one. Like, I don't see how, it doesn't look like it's very well supported underneath either. Like, see these little cracks and crevices and gaps and stuff? Like, that looks like that's not going to be great support. When you got a fucking very heavy helicopter going up and down, landing and taking off, several times a week or, however many times they actually do it. I'm sure they practice a lot more than they actually are flying the president anyway. So, but I just feel like that's going to be, that's going to have some degradation onto it, right? That's going to have some degradation. Those cracks are going to get worsened over time. But, that's something that I saw in this. But here's where he's kind of explaining his maniacal view to everybody.
Artists. Where's Brett? Here.
Yeah, come here, Brett.
I don't want to give him too much credit, and I don't want a lot of people using him, so I'm not going to even mention his name. I'll just say his name is Brett. Because I don't want other people, because we got a lot of work to do, and I want you to stay here. I'm not looking for you to go to other jobs, okay? But the job he's done...
And again, the wind doing Donald Trump absolutely no favors here as far as the toupee resting on his head. The hairstyle is fighting for its life up there, literally holding on for dear life up there, trying to stay in position. Somebody give the guy a hard hat. I'm sure there's a hard hat around that says Trump was right about everything or Trump 2028. I'm sure it probably follows him around in the motorcade. But yeah, this is what Trump was worried about. Walked around for probably a good hour, 45 minutes to an hour out there, kind of explaining absolutely nothing, showing everybody that he has absolutely no clue what he's talking about as far as construction is concerned. At one point, he had to literally tell people that because it was a round helipad that they had to cut the stone because, if you didn't cut the square stone, you'd have a square helipad. But, had to tell everybody how they cut it with the, cut the radius on it and had to make it circular and shit. But this is what he's worried about. This is what, gets his attention. If it's not Natalie Harp, it's these different construction projects. And I'm sure he doesn't even give a shit with the final product. He just likes the rendering. Like, he likes picking the fucking, the curtains and the couches and the rugs and everything else. Like, that's his duty. That's what he does. Everybody else has to come up with the plans and the way to do it, and then they don't get paid. Like, that's another thing. Like, how'd you like being a blue-collar worker here, probably working undoubtedly for a union at the White House, and having Donald Trump shit all over, like, contractors and people that work in the union and say that he's never going to pay them, and, how much he stiffs the contractors? Like, I wouldn't stand behind that guy, probably one, for health reasons, but two, because he's an absolute degenerate and cares nothing about the people that are standing behind him right now or working on this project. But yeah, this is what he was worried about. This is what he was doing. And that's why he was so late originally to his little meeting that he had with the other crooks and businessmen that he was having a meeting with at the Oval Office. I believe he was too busy out here giving his little speech to the construction crew with his, $1 billion fucking helipad that he's got going on here. But yeah, all right, let's jump into a little bit about Russia's failing war, and I will get you guys out of here for the evening. Really do appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day, clicking that like button, sending in, oh, Chewy. Holy shit, Chewy. I just saw that out of the corner of my eye. Thank you for the 50 gifted Boston Brian memberships. That's incredible. Make sure hopefully you're sticking around. Hopefully you're still down there in the chat so I can thank you at the end of the program like we do everybody else that sent in a super sticker, super chat, gifted Boston Brian memberships. That's amazing, Chewy. Thank you so much. My apologies that I saw that late and caught that out of the corner of my eye, but luckily I did. But yeah, stick around to the end. We're going to go over here just a little bit.
So senior officials are sounding the alarm in Russia.
Russian officials, let's just say, and how they're noticing that this war is taking its toll, is having an absolute effect not only in the economy, but also on their fighting positions, on their ability to continue to fight. So let me just throw this on your screen, put this on real quick, and we'll go through this, a few minutes of this. And then, like I said, I'll get you guys out of here. I'll thank you guys for your contributions. But this is a little bit of insight as to how the Russian side is now more recognizing that things are going poorly, right? So let's see if we can dive into this. Again, shout out to Preston for his for the job he does, the work he does, and the insights that he gives us into what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. So much appreciated. Slava Ukraine. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. All great ways to help this channel flourish, to make sure that we can continue to grow and reach 25,000 subscribers. Ultimately, before is our goal, midterm elections. So let's get into it.
With the chief economist saying, quote, "We won't win the competition in this war of attrition."
Somehow I always
under the illusion that
the first words of this. Let me see if I can get it one time. Just one time, the first words of the video.
So senior officials are sounding the alarm in Russia, with the chief economist saying, quote, "We won't win the competition in this war of attrition. We're under the illusion that everything in Ukraine will collapse, but it hasn't, and it won't. Our costs are mounting." Now, he was fired 2 days after the speech was made public, so let's get into what he said and what's looking like major problems headed Russia's way in the very near term. In fact,
that's what we want to hear. Anything about that is good news to me, music to my ears. Bad news for Russia is a good news for Brian.
It's enough that a few guys we're going to quote today are referencing past collapses and revolutions as examples. So
that's never good. That's never good.
Starting out, we've got an article here in the Moscow Times. All of these sources, of course, linked in the description below, where they quote a speech given by Andrei Klepok, the chief economist at a Russian state-run bank that finances infrastructure projects across the country. This speech was given in May. It was reported on and made public August 14th. 2 days later, August 16th, he was fired, officially for disciplinary reasons, but we even have Russian sources saying, it's because he said something the Kremlin didn't want to hear. And
I think that's pretty obvious, right? I think the steps after, 2 days after this guy's words and speech and, thoughts about how Russia will never win this war and cannot win this war of attrition come out, he gets sacked. I think it's pretty, obvious that we could relate that to the comments and his sentiment about the way that the war is going.
To be fair, the assessment here is pretty dark, but it does match what we see from the outside looking in. Like if you kind of move past all of the propaganda and the smoke shields, this passes the common sense test. Klepok says, quote, "We're falling behind. We're losing both the technological and economic competition globally. And as I've already said, we're losing not only to China and the United States, but in some ways we're losing to Ukraine. Ukraine's economy, of course, is partially destroyed. It's a demographic disaster. But once again, the Ukrainian economy, despite everything, is surviving. Of course, there's enormous financial assistance there. And with this assistance for military spending and their own expenses, it's roughly 50% of our budget. Now, a few different things to break out there. First off, talking about falling behind in the competition, we can see this clear as day. And a lot of this we can see. It's just hard to identify exactly what the impact is today.
And again, just to give a little bit more credence to that, a little more credibility behind that, the fact that we've seen Ukraine successfully and pretty much nightly send up almost a 3-to-1 ratio as far as drones and missiles that Russians are able to send back their way. Not saying that the Russians aren't affecting, damage, aren't, really causing some harm to the people, obviously, inside of Kyiv and in other areas that they're striking with these missiles. That is true. But to see that the Ukrainians have advanced their technology so much and have kind of, exploited that technological advancements to make sure that they have so much of this drone proliferation going on that they're able nightly to send over this much and to barrage the different Russian targets on a nightly basis is exactly what this Russian official was talking about, is the fact that you look at not only have their abilities grown, right? Not only have their technological advancements and military successes grown throughout the 5 years of this war, but obviously the assistance that they're getting from the European Union, from the United States, as much as that's been degraded under Donald Trump, obviously has an added impact at boosting up the Ukrainian economy. And that's expending a lot more of the Russian economy than we originally anticipated. And it looks like if this is going to persist the way that it's persisted, and it's going to be, and again, a prolonged engagement, that we're going to see increased degradation to the Russian economy in hopes to affect some sort of change to the Ukrainian economy, where they have all this added help, where they're already seeing these advancements, when they're putting advancements in technology into different areas to make sure that they can continue to be the kind of the tip of the spear, as it were, for warfare as it goes on, as it progresses. So that's kind of a little bit of what this Russian official was touching on. He didn't get to touch on it for too long because he was obviously sacked 2 days after the announcement or the news came out of this report. So you can see that it kind of struck a nerve with the Kremlin. It wasn't just that he was speaking bad about the Russian war effort. I'm sure there's millions of different clips and videos that we could look at on a nightly basis of Russians kind of talking poorly about, Russian fuel lines, the Wildberry strikes, any number of topics. But the fact that this guy may be having such a prominent position, obviously it being picked up by different networks, and exactly what he was saying and how true, like how, based in reality it was, I think that's what really struck the chord. And, the Kremlin found it very necessary to get him out of his role, out of his position, so he couldn't go on saying things like this in the public space any longer.
But the example I'll use right out the gate is AI. Love it or hate it, it is driving a lot of economies around the world right now. The major AI competition is between the US and China. Russia's not in that conversation at all. I mean, you can spread it out to other technologies that are market driving and changing the way people live. When was the last time anything came out of Russia, right? Like, they are spending a lot of money. A lot of that money is going into their wartime economy and is paying the salaries of the soldiers, paying the death benefits. Sometimes it's paying for new bombs.
Right. I mean, the gas station that kind of, portrays itself as a country, as a functioning country like Russia is, if they can't, export their oil, if they can't utilize their oil resources, their petroleum resources, and, Ukraine has the ultimate impact that they're hoping to have in shutting that down to the effect where they can't, they can't continue their war effort, then obviously that's going to have huge ramifications. So you can see kind of where this is going and where the sentiment of that Russian official was, what he was talking about and what he was looking at.
New artillery pieces. Meanwhile, the rest of the world continues on without Russia. That's one of the aspects here The Economist is talking about. I don't think that is too hard.
Because they have nothing else to provide. They have nothing else to provide. That's why they have to have knockoff McDonald's, knockoff Coca-Cola, knockoff Apple, knockoff everything that they fucking, they need to steal, because they don't produce it themselves. And if it's not oil, if it's not gas, if it's not anything to do with petroleum, they're just not looked at in the greater world for like any other resource, right? They're not known for this, that, or the other thing. They're not exporting, a really substantial resource to any of the other, like, it's just the oil, it's just the petroleum, it's just the gas. And if they can't do that, then, they're kind of screwed, right? They're definitely not ahead in the AI, as Preston's talking about now. They're definitely not looked at as a powerhouse in any other industry besides that, specific industry.
Argue. The second part here, talking about the budget. Ukraine's budget reaching 50% of Russia is a shocking number to hear, especially from a Russian economist. Very hard to parse out the exact expenditures of any country during wartime. But if we go back as an example to 2021, before the full-scale war began, you're talking about a 7x multiple. Russia was spending 7 times more than Ukraine on an annual basis. For that number to go from 7x to 2x means probably an increase in Ukraine, probably a decrease in Russia, some variation there. Nobody expected that. Right?
No, and that's huge. I mean, obviously, I don't need to put it into, numbers as far as what a substantial change it is to be spending at one point before the war 7 to 8 times more than your opponent, more than your enemy. And now 5 years into a war that you were supposed to have won in 72 hours, you're now spending only 2 to 1 as far as the economies are concerned. Like, clearly that's shown either growth or the ability to remain on the Ukrainian side, and that's shown absolute degradation on the side of the Russians, right? I mean, that's kind of the only picture, the only conclusion that you could draw from that kind of data set is exactly that.
Ukrainian economy was supposed to collapse at some point. We're not going to go down the 3-day rabbit hole, but at some point, the Ukrainian economy was not supposed to keep up with this war. And you still hear it day in and day out from random commentators online that it's just a matter of time before the economy collapses and Russia can do whatever they want. It hasn't. In fact, the progress has been in the opposite direction of what Russia would have hoped at the beginning of the war. That is crazy and a major problem for the Kremlin in the continued execution of this conflict. And the last piece here, we can't bypass that a major component of the Ukrainian economy is foreign assistance. Right? That's not a secret. These countries proudly describe what they're doing to support the Ukrainian economy that is largely, almost exclusively, a wartime economy right now. There was a graph that came up a couple days ago I want to share that shows how much this has changed in recent years.
I mean, you can see how much the U.S. involvement has changed as well. I mean, you can see the U.S. here in orange, 2022, substantial portion of military aid, 2023, substantial portion of military aid, 2024, substantial portion of military aid, 2025, drastically different, drastically lower as far as the amount of military aid given. Europe, drastically more, trying to fill in the gaps from the United States. And here in 2026, basically nothing as far as military aid. And then even on the financial and humanitarian aid sector, you can see the drastic difference here. 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, nothing. 2026, absolutely nothing here. And then obviously you can see the increasing expenditures and help there, financial aid and humanitarian aid sent over by the European Union. So, definitely not a good sign as far as U.S. participation. Just an absolute shame and an embarrassment to see our country kind of remove itself from this fight almost totally. Pete Hegseth doing his best to sit on, some $400 million that was supposed to be allocated for this fight, doing everything he can to make, and put in place roadblocks as far as, financial and military aid going from the United States to Ukraine to make it as difficult as humanly possible, if not, keep it at zero, which is what they'd ultimately like to see to help benefit Vladimir Putin and the Russian military. But, it's a good thing when, more and more of the intelligentsia, when more and more officials in the Russian, economy and the Russian zeitgeist are speaking out about the economic pressures, about the futility of this war, how much they're expending, what it's costing them, how long it seems to be going on, and the lack of benefit they've seen from this war. They haven't achieved their goals. They haven't stormed into Kyiv like they thought they were going to do within the first week. Like he was talking about here, Preston Stewart, the economy of Ukraine hasn't buckled, hasn't collapsed like a lot of people in the Russian in the Russian military were expecting it to do. So, you can see that, more and more people speaking up as the mill bloggers have been more and more likely to speak about the inadequacies of the Russian military leadership, obviously the lies and how the flag planting operations have gone on to, increasingly harm the military's ability to conduct their fight adequately and to get to paint a realistic picture of what the front actually looks like so they could, send their troops in whatever direction they need to be sent in. So it paints a, increasingly fuzzy picture for the Russian military, kind of not knowing where the front lines lie, where the occupation begins and where it was just propaganda to show or to prove or to try to prove that they own or occupy this territory. But, I'll let it go from there. If anything, I'll get you guys out of here a couple minutes early before we start thanking people It probably won't be that early, but thank you guys for sticking with me on this Wednesday night. Thank you for sticking with me, you guys that have come with us on the journey for the 2 shows on Wednesday, as we always have. If you missed the earlier show, we're on at 1 o'clock during the day as well. Obviously, the 8:30 show that you're watching here on Wednesday nights is a great opportunity for you guys to come and join the community. Typically, we're not stepping on anybody's toes here on the 8:30 show, so welcome in one and all. This is where we ask people to come in, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It's a fantastic time when you join us here for the entire show. But yeah, a lot going on with Natalie Harp. A lot going on with threats of escalation coming from the Iranian side now. Seems like the baby back bitch that is Donald Trump is more likely to kind of try and stay quiet now, to kind of, like he said, low key it in some of the reports, as far as the alternative of, kind of striking back tit for tat style with Iran, with every, ship that's struck in the Strait of Hormuz, or every time the Houthis decide to, launch an attack that kills 60 or so Yemenis government officials, anything like that, that's still ongoing right now. But yeah, so that and the fact that the relationship between Natalie Harp continues to be looked at, continues to be dissected, as the insanity of that, the weirdness, we'll just say, of that kind of continues as well. But all right, let's see if there's anybody nice enough, kind enough to send over a little thank you here on the old Venmo side of things. Again, $1 or $2 sent into this independent channel that takes no, outside sources, no financial backers. We have no ads run during these live streams. We don't charge for the Substack. There's nothing hidden behind a paywall. We try to do this the right way by you guys, so nobody's swaying in the background what we're talking about. Nobody has any ability to say, hey, don't talk about this, or please talk more about this. Like, nobody can do that here. But that means that I am reliant upon you guys in the community here, reliant upon you guys in the chat to keep this moving. I understand it's a shitty thing to have to keep doing. I am not a great self-promotional guy. I'm not a big self-promotional guru here, which is probably a good thing that you need to have in order to make a living off of this lifestyle, a living off of this career. But again, every time I think about it, I try to instill upon you guys some ideas and ways in which you can help this channel. You could go to bluntpolitics.com, hit up the bostonbrian.com, and hit up the Blunt Politics merch shop. Some fantastic merch on there. You can sign up for a YouTube membership for a couple bucks a month just underneath me. There's the Patreon for $5 a month, which you can help consistently keep this channel running. That would be fantastic and very much appreciated. So first up today, Candy. How are you? Great to see you, Candy. I feel like I haven't seen your name in a little bit, so great to see you. Thank you for the $20 on Venmo. A wee tip for your work. Appreciate you. Just remember, just the tip, though. That's all, Candy. Just the tip. Sorry, that's Jeff's line. He's gonna be mad that I stole his line. But thank you so much, Candy. Thank you so much, Geneva. I see you sending in there. Thank you for the $50 that you send in on Venmo. Very much appreciated, Geneva. Thank you so goddamn much. Says, thank you, Brian, for a great show as always. Geneva, that is so very much appreciated. I'm so grateful to have fantastic people like you that are so supportive in this community, that keep this channel running. It's been a long haul. It's been a very long haul. It's been tough trying to break through the old algorithm monsters to try to make this thing a success, to try to justify the fact that I gave up a plumbing career to do this. We haven't hit that point yet. Still, to this day, one of the worst financial decisions I've ever made in my life. But I do find it important enough to speak on these issues every single day, and I'm not going anywhere. You're going to continue seeing my face on here regardless. I don't care if I'm speaking to my goddamn self at the end of this whole thing. So I do appreciate everybody keeping this running. So Geneva, Candy, thank you to Brian as well for the $5 he sent in. Just finished closing the shop and sitting on the deck with my girl and the dogs, listening to Bri. Life is good right now. Slava Ukraini. Well, hello to Brian. Hello to Brian's dogs. And hello to Brian's girl. Much appreciated to all of you guys for taking the time out of your day to listen to me rant and rave on your telephone or on your laptop or on your television. Thank you, all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Allison, as well. Shout out to you. Much appreciated for the $5 that you sent over with a salute, a heart, and a lobster. Oh, did you guys see let me show you guys this. Did you guys see on Blue Sky what I posted? Apparently the lobsters were out in full force today in Boston with a pretty poignant message, I might add. I think this was on I-93. Let me see if I can throw this on your screen real quick. Was it this one? Yeah, I think it was this one. Let me throw this on. This was above an overpass, I believe, on I-93. But you can see there in the right hand corner of the picture, the Lobsters out representing. My post there says the Lobsters are out in Boston. Blunt Politics, Boston, Bryantologist, and it says we are all on the decoy plane, which is very fitting because right now at the Blunt Politics merch shop at bostonbryan.com, we just happen to have a We Are All on the Decoy Plane t-shirt going on. So you can get that right now with the $5 off with the summer sale we have going on with all the t-shirts over there at Blunt Politics shop. You can get the We Are All on the Decoy Plane along with the Boston Bryan's Lobsters. So we got everything covered. We were ready for this, right? We were born and bred for that fucking picture to be taken, for that saying to come out way ahead of the game. So hopefully you guys can check that out over there at the Blunt Politics shop. Head over to bostonbryan.com. Again, scroll down to that little logo you see at the top. Click on that, and that'll take you to the shop right there. We have hats and sweatshirts and T-shirts and stickers and mugs, the whole nine yards. Some very, very, very fantastic designs, I might say. I know I'm biased, but I do think that we have the best designs for any small creator here on the YouTube side of things, punching well above our weight class. But yeah, this was, in Boston. We are all on the decoy plane with the Lobster. Shout out to the Lobster. Whoever was in the Lobster costume there, shout out to you. So had to jump on that one. Had to jump on that. Couldn't let that slide. Couldn't let it slide. Where an opportunity lies, guys, Fucking promotional, the promotional aspect of this never sleeps. The promotional aspect never sleeps. So thank you so much to Allison. Right behind you was Kathy. Thank you so much to Kathy. She said solitaire winning share. So this was from earlier today. Thank you so much. And then thank you so much from earlier as well to Brian again, Erica, Jeff, and Roxanne, as well as Marty, Damon, John McDonough, and who was the last one there? And Jim. Thank you so much to Jim. Much appreciated for everybody over the last couple days, keeping this thing alive, keeping the show pumping, keeping the lights on, keeping the microphone working. You know how it goes. You got to pay the bills and keep yourself fed, for Christ's sakes. But yeah, let's say thank you to everybody over here on the YouTube side, and I will get you guys out of here. Typically not ahead of schedule, but what are you going to do? I yap. It takes long. I'm sorry. That's what you come here for, is the opinions, right? That's what you come here for. But thank you to Deb. Much appreciated for kicking it off in the right direction over there on the YouTube. Thank you, and W's to you in the chat. Much appreciated. And also being here for 14 months as a member. Let's go. Big night for Deb. Big night for Deb. W's in the chat for Deb. Glad to be able to catch a live broadcast. I've been so busy teaching. #Team Democracy. Well, thank you so much for your, educational performances, for making sure that people stay informed, up to date, and making sure that they can be, smart enough to avoid the propaganda. So much appreciated, Deb. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. No apologies necessary for being so busy. Obviously doing important things like that. So thank you, Deb. Hope you're having a great night. Thank you to Jim. Much appreciated for the 5 gifted Boston Bryan memberships. Sorry that you didn't get the link for the Zoom on Monday. We'll have to figure out what's going on there. I sent it out the usual way, so hopefully it wasn't something screwed up on my end. But my apologies for that, Jim. Maybe we'll pop you into another one of those Zooms to make up for it. So we still have to make up for the Zooms that I was in Ukraine. Don't think I forgot about that either. So thank you, Jim. Thank you to Sammy Joe for the 10 joules. Very much appreciated that. W, right back to you. Much appreciated. Thank you to Chewy with the huge 50 fucking gifted memberships. Let's go, Chewy. Big shout out to you. Can't thank you enough for that. Very substantial and incredibly generous contribution. Thank you for being so supportive of this program, being in the chat as much as you are. A very valued member of the community, as you all are. But thank you, and obviously substantial contribution that helps 50 new people in this chat get access to a Boston Bryan membership. So Chewy, thank you so goddamn much. Thank you as well for being here for 29 months as a member, your goddamn self. So you're just a saint all the way around. He says, step on it till the wheels fall off. I follow that. That's kind of the way that I live. So I'm right there behind you on that one, Chewy. Again, big salute to you. Thank you so much. It is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated for your support and contributions to this channel. So I hope you're having a great night. Thank you to Pokemaster Cave, Pokemaster Cave. Pokemaster Cave? Hopefully I'm getting that right. My apologies if I'm not. I don't know why it'd be Cave. I think I sound like an idiot saying that, but let me know if I'm wrong. Thank you for the 10 joules and the gold coin. Very much appreciated for you checking out this live stream, and then obviously taking the time out to contribute as well. Very, very much appreciated. Thank you to Bry Guy. He's all over the place, this guy. He's all over the place. He's on Venmo. He's on YouTube. He's on the deck. He's with the kids. He's with the dogs. He's with the girl. He's all over the joint. He's living the fucking life right now on the deck, smoking a cigarro, enjoying Boston Brian and the sunset. And the temp drop life is just fine. Slava Ukraine. Well, now this is typically getting into one of my favorite periods of the year, one of my favorite seasons where you can bust out the hoodies, we can bust out the sweatpants, and you can still be comfortable outside without sweating your ass off. So hopefully you're having a nice little breeze out there. You're in some comfy clothes, smoking a nice big Cuban on your deck there, Chief. So from me to yours, hope you're having a wonderful night, and thank you so much for your contributions. Right underneath you is Candy. Well, right, you know what I mean. Is Candy just topped in for a few to say hello to the lot of you. Be well, friends. Are you? Am I picking up an accent this evening, Candy? Am I picking up a Scottish accent or something going on here? I feel like in your Venmo, what'd you say? We? I think you popped in a we on that one. But thank you, Candy. Much appreciated for the 10. Hope you're having a great night. Thank you for popping in. Thank you for the contributions. Thank you to Allie B. Let's go. 15 months as a member. It's your show, but no, what's that say? No drums for the dad jokes. Come on. I need to have that as a drop. I really don't have that yet. I got to figure out. Maybe hold on. Do they afford me the opportunity to get a boom boom? Is that something StreamYard will allow me? I'm afraid to do it. It'll probably shut down the computer. Drum roll bongos. Is that it? Nope. That's not it either. I can get a gong. I can get a boo. I can get a punch. I can get a fountain. I can get a scream man or a train whistle or siren police. But no, there is absolutely no option on there for the dad joke. Boom boom. Okay, so sorry, Allie. Much appreciated for your contribution, and thank you for being here for the 15 months as a member as you've been. Really, really very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Candy's back at it again with the 10 Boston Brian memberships. Let's go for gifting and including people in the chat. That's what I really love to see is, other people getting included into this community. Other people getting, greater access into the community as well. So thank you so much, Candy, for the 10 gifted. Much appreciated, and hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you to DPD. Thank you, Boston Brian and Mods and my fellow lobsters for helping me to maintain my sanity during these dystopian times and for creating a soft place to land. Besides, I love your potty mouth and Boston Brian, and I consider you guys my second family. Well, DPD, we appreciate that, and you are absolutely welcomed in this community anytime you need it. You come here, you vent, whatever you need to do here, you're very much welcome. So thank you so much for your financial contributions, and thank you so much just for taking the time out of your day to watch this show. It is greatly, greatly appreciated, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night. Thank you to Frank for a Chinese rabbit foot. Is that how much they are now? God damn it. Fucking those rabbit foots are getting expensive, Frank. Everything. Inflation is hitting everything. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Dame. I got the, quote, Summer of Drones patch from the Ukraine truck campaign. It's really nice. Thank you for sponsoring and delivering the truck. Slava Ukraini. Well, right back at you, Dame. Hold on. Where did I put mine? It's somewhere around in this. Hold on. Oh, here it is. I got you right in front of my face. So I think this is what Damon's talking about here. The NAFO Summer of Drones patch that was designed by yours truly here for our latest fundraiser for the NAFO community. So that was pretty cool to, again, be a part of this. And thank you so much, guys, for making this a possibility. I know for some reason you guys have the crazy idea that you have to thank me for this, when in reality, I should be thanking you guys incessantly for all of your generosity, for, again, supporting the fundraisers and campaigns that I myself find to be important, that I, myself are passionate about. So for you guys to be very supportive of those, so supportive of those things is, again, it's really touching and heartwarming to, again, have built this community that is engaged and so really, really generous in this in these aspects. So much appreciated, Dame, for your contributions. Thank you for being a part of this. Everybody else in the chat that was a part of this as well, regardless of the amount that you donated. Shout out to you guys. I mean it. I really mean it. Thank you so much for making that a possibility, and hopefully we can continue growing this channel, growing the audience, and the amount that we can contribute to these different, very important missions, whether it's here in the United States or it's supporting a candidate, or if it's something abroad, anything. So really, really appreciate you guys making this a possibility. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you to everybody on the YouTube side of things. Thank you to everybody on Venmo for sending in your financial contributions. Appreciate everybody that joined us for the 2 shows that we have every single Wednesday. But I will see you tomorrow. In case you are missed any of the action today, any of the content today, make sure you come join us tomorrow. We're going to be on at 2 p.m. here on the East Coast. That is 11 a.m. on the West Coast. I don't care if you watch other people. I don't care if there's another show that you like on at the same time. Come on over, join the club, give us a shot. I'm kidding. I don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes, but really I'm not. Come screw them, join me. Screw them, join me. Okay. Just that subliminal message I want to leave in there. All right. I appreciate you guys. I really do. So stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive, and make sure you're staying informed, and most importantly, stay in the fight. That's what we need you guys to do. Make sure you're taking your time for yourselves, making sure you're recuperating and relaxing. Get your mental state right. That way you can get involved and become just as aggressive as you were before you had to, walk the dog or go out for a round of golf or read a book or whatever you guys do to kind of settle yourselves down. But yeah, make sure you're staying safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. We need you guys alive. We need you guys well. We need you guys activated and ready to fucking rock and roll heading into midterm elections. So again, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to this channel. Very important that you do so. A lot of people watch but are not subscribed. Again, I think it's a pretty general percentage that there's like 60 or 70% of the people that watch this ultimately are not subscribed. It doesn't cost a dime. Literally doesn't cost you any money to do so. So if you could pop over there, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell. All free. 3 free things that you could do to help this channel. So, all right, I'll let you go. I'll see you tomorrow for the Thursday show. Here at the Blunt Politics Podcast. My name is Boston Brian, and I do appreciate you guys. I respect the shit out of you guys, and I I can't thank you enough for all your generosity in making this thing a possibility. So, all right, I'm out of here. Thank you to the mods. Once again, a big salute to you and everybody else in the chat. Thank you for being the best chat, best family, best community here on social media. So thank you, Allie. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Frank, Yakov, Orb, Vruma, Bethany, Luck Dragon, Isaac. What's going on, Isaac? How are you? What's going on? Rocks, thank you so much. Thank you to Becky. Who else is in there? Thank you to Jim, Looney Tunes, Shift to Neutral, Shovel Dead. Oh, we got the whole crew in here tonight. Thank you to Midas Cam. Much appreciated to you guys. Lightfoot, let's go. Forever Young is in here. Fucking, I love it. I love a good Wednesday night with the fam. All right, hit that like button on the way out. Does Boston Brian make hoodies? Come on, you know it. You know it, for Christ's sakes. You know it. Head over to bostonbrian.com. Check out the Blunt Politics merch site. Make sure I'm not turning myself into a liar there. If not, we'll have to get them in there before you guys click. But no, I'm pretty sure we got sweatshirts on there, right? I'm pretty sure we got hoodies on there. Am I wrong? I don't know. Fuck. Now you're making me think twice about it. But anyway, we got fantastic merch, even if we don't. I know that. And if not, we'll make sure to get some on there for you guys. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Hit that like button on the way out, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the Thursday show. Thank you. I know. Don't say it. Just subscribe and shut up, please.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Had hoodies. Crying out loud. Yes, we got hoodies on there. Hoodies are my favorite thing.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing.
Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
We're inviting Americans from all across the country to come.
For miners, do we love miners? I love miners.
They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated?
He says, wrecked him, damn near killed him.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Bad news, bad news. Even when it's good news, it's bad news.
For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands. Refer to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small.
Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
What in the hell was that all about?
My superpower is being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
Is there anything worse than white people? White people are a mortal danger to you and your loved ones.
You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns.
Brian, yeah, you're drunk. You're drunk. Brian, yeah, you're drunk. You're drunk.
The population in Thailand is 63 million people. It is twice the size of Wyoming. Its chief exports are textiles, footwear, and rice. Each year, approximately 13,000 people are